2025 Dynasty Superflex Startup Mock Draft. Today we're breaking one down. We're going to be doing one with you guys. If you want to join it, the link is in the chat. Get in here ASAP. We got, 7 spots to go before we get this thing started. The rules of this draft that we'll go over, and we will, Danny, I'm going to hold us to this. We will try and commentate this draft without getting too tangential in our discussions where we go off on, running back 16 versus running back 17 in our rankings or something like that. But,
and then you're just going to have chat typing in some trigger words to get us going.
Yes.
They'll type like Caleb Williams ? And then we'll just start ripping.
These are the rules. Dynasty Superflex, 0.5 tight end premium, start 9. If you go to the roster settings, there's only 2 wide receiver slots, not 3. But there is a Superflex, and then we'll do a couple benches. And once we fill this draft, we can get things going. And at the end of this stream, second hour of the stream, we will be ripping through our team reviews. We got, I think, 5 teams to break down over on the site, which is if you guys want to get your team reviewed at the end of the stream here, you can get your team reviewed using that link. And it's also linked down below in the description. And I believe we have 3 trade questions as well. So we'll break those down in the second hour of this live stream. But we're first going to tackle another Superflex mock draft. We have only done one actually since the NFL draft when we got the rookies. And of course, the rookies will be in this as well. You can see Genty and whatnot in the ADP there. So it's going to be a fun time. Got one more spot and then we'll get this thing going.
Yeah, absolutely. We have all the spots filled. Again, you guys can see the draft settings like Corey mentioned. Randomize that order and we can kick it off. You get the 101 here, and I get the 107. So, by the time we're live streaming this right now, I actually just joined a new startup with some Twitter folk. Let me just take a look at exactly who's in the league for you guys to kind of get a picture there. But off the top, Dataroma's in there. Dave Kluge is in there. Obviously, our friend Ron Stewart, Jacob Sanderson, Ryan Heath from Fantasy Points. So should be a ton of fun. There's a ton of those Twitter follows over in that league.
Yes, and also among us, Ron has a Dynasty channel, by the way, now. If you guys are Ron Stewart fantasy football subscribers and you have no idea why he hasn't posted videos in a while, it's because he started RS Dynasty, so he's segmenting his redraft and his Dynasty content. So if you're wondering where Ron's been, that is where he's been.
Here. And for those of you, Ron's a buddy of ours. We'll get you the link if you're looking for that as well. But that is where his new Dynasty stuff is. Again, shout out Ron. Obviously, we started this whole thing basically at the same time. We've been tied to the hip. I mean, our channels are literally identical on any time you look in terms of subscribers. So it's been fun, that pendulum swinging back and forth,
Yeah, and also a quick announcement as well. For those of you guys that follow myself over on TikTok, Danny's going to be creating a TikTok this year. We'll kind of just, segment our own kind of individual content on there, short form stuff. But we are going to combine the 2 TikToks into our new Instagram, which I created this morning. And Jared already getting fired. You absolutely hate to see that.
Can't auto a Lamar Jackson 102. What are we doing, Jared? Come on.
But I dropped the Instagram link in the chat. If you guys are on Instagram, maybe you're not on TikTok. Fair warning, it will be just basically a combined our TikToks together. So if you follow us on TikTok, you'll pretty much get the same picture. But if you're not on TikTok and you want to follow us over on Instagram, you can check that out.
Frank Ragnow just retired.
Wow, that's interesting.
What the heck? Damn. Who's going to play center for Detroit?
I don't know. They probably have some depth that they can work with.
It's fair. I mean, that's a top 3 center in the league.
Yeah.
Here.
We, me and speaking of Jared, who obviously autoed the Lamar Jackson pick, we actually have a trade in discussions right now and no Flockin. I don't think you have no competitive assets left, do you?
I have Puka Nacua and that's about it.
Yeah. So, cause you and I were talking about potentially dealing for Godwin or Kittle or whatever at that point. But, there's a pretty juicy offer on the table with me and Jared at the moment. I'm probably going to accept it. When we're done the stream, I might get your thoughts on it.
Also, is the ADP set as 1 quarterback?
Maybe it is. It shouldn't be.
That's I
know it was set as Superflex because I had Allen at the top of my ADP queue.
Okay, but Hurts was like 9th overall. Like maybe it might be Superflex redraft ADP right now.
Oh, is it Superflex redraft?
That's what I'm assuming.
Dynasty 2 quarterback.
Okay, I'm so confused. Then why are the rankings the way they are?
I have no idea. I mean, this looks correct to me. in terms of what's on the board. Maybe Hurts is just buried for some reason, but I mean, if you're wondering why is Caleb so low, it's because nobody's as psycho as you, if that's what you're wondering.
No. In what league is Bijan Robinson going 5 spots above CeeDee Lamb in a dynasty league?
CeeDee Lamb's
that's not the ADP.
Has slid since last year. I know you and I can't believe it, but it has slid for most people.
Okay. I think the ADP is fucked up, but I don't think you realize it.
No, I don't think it is, man. I think this is the correct ADP. It's just you disagree with some of this stuff.
I don't think it's Dynasty.
It literally said, like, look, it says Dynasty.
No, I know, but it looks funky.
Okay, well, it's correct.
Saquon Barkley is listed above who?
Yeah, dude, that's where he goes.
What? In what startup has he ever went 206?
Dude, if this was redraft ADP, he'd be going top 3.
I don't know, man. It looks... Maybe I'm faded. It looks janky.
Sleeper ADP might just stink.
I mean, maybe it does.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, we haven't plugged this yet because we wanted to make sure all the bugs were kind of worked out of the system before we started using it on streams and whatnot. But we do actually have startup mock drafts going live on Flock Fantasy right now that you guys can use. I haven't personally dove into them too much myself, so I don't want to like use the product yet if I'm not completely aware of how it's being used and how it works. But we'll start integrating that going forward because we do have a little bit better of an ADP basis then because we have our expert rankings and whatnot.
See, like maybe the ADP is just janky. I'm in a startup right now. Maybe they updated it. That must be what happened. Because I'm in a startup right now and it's actually the same.
Yeah, dude, it might just be soft.
Wow.
This is a good thing for most people.
Also, yeah, Bush let it go. No, sorry. I was just baffled. I was stunned.
Yeah, it is like Among Us, the sleeper ADP is always terrible this time of year. It usually is because people are trying to figure out how the rookies stack up into the ADP and that kind of thing. But yeah, and Jared says, shoot, sorry for the auto. You hate to see it. Barkley over Lamb, Ryland says, see, this is what I'm saying, dude. It's not.
He's a Cowboys fan. He's trolling.
Insane, but
no. He said this is how we tilt Danny. He's trolling. He's a Cowboys fan.
Sleeper ADP is becoming disgusting as it gets more popular. Fellas, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
When ADP looks wrong to you, it means it's exploitable. Like for those of you guys that have ever played a redraft league on Yahoo or something after drafting underdog drafts all summer, you're like, Drake London goes where or whatever. You'll be like, oh my God, he's like in the 6th round or something.
Like, bro, why? The fact that this is currently the startup ADP and Saquon Barkley is listed higher than Caleb Williams is a felony.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but
it's Drake May,
in my opinion.
All right, hey Bush, any league that you have Drake May or Caleb Williams, and I have Saquon Barkley, I will offer you Saquon Barkley for one of those guys. Plus, I
have Drake May and Saquon Barkley in the only league that I have Saquon Barkley in.
Really?
Yeah.
Toast Truthers?
Yeah, the only league I have Saquon in, I have both Drake May and Saquon in.
Oh, right, because you had JD and then you did the... Okay, I remember.
Don't remind me. I traded Jaden Daniels in a 2nd rounder before the season last year for Drake May. Hey, I had conviction that Drake May was the better quarterback, and I still don't think it's out of the range of outcomes that Drake May becomes the better asset, but it is definitely not aged well over 1 calendar year. Jaden Daniels,
I was right there with you. Don't worry. I was right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck, Saquon Barkley's going... Oh, my God.
I mean, the guy is like a 20-point per game running back in redraft. Like, he's got to be going high in Dynasty. Yeah. Just because you and I don't want to hit the draft button on him doesn't mean he shouldn't be valued here.
He's what, 28 years old?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to get a 20-point per game scoring running back. You start up a Dynasty startup draft. Like, this is kind of
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. There we go. Hey, Patrick Mahomes being on the board still. Come on, guys. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
He might fall to you given this ADP. Never mind.
Thank you.
You're going to get Drake May at the 212. I'm going to throw up.
Yeah, Madden curse coming into full effect with Saquon. Yeah, I think it would be funny if he like fell in people's fantasy drafts because of the Madden curse.
Dude, you're going to get gifted a Drake May 212 and you're going to love it. Oh, I'm grossed. This ADP is actual funk, by the way.
Hey, they sleeper just might be a bunch of raging casuals. Let's just be honest here.
Which makes the edge even more. If you guys want a proper list of rankings, head over on to flockfantasy.com, promo code FSE. Because guess what? If you're in sleeper leagues right now doing your startups and you have access to those rankings, your league mates won't know what hit them.
Yeah. There we go. Nice little plug there. Yeah. Anything surprise you other than the fact that the ADP is terrible at this point?
I mean, Saquon Barkley 2.5 is outrageous for me.
Yeah, I would say whoever the premier redraft asset is should probably be a 3rd round pick. Like in past years, it's been like Cooper Kupp, and past years it's been Christian McCaffrey. Like they should probably be a 3rd round pick, I would say.
Like I'm going through my dynasty rankings right now. We'll go to Superflex. Where is Saquon? Yeah, like if you want to take Saquon at the mid to end of the 3rd round, I think that's reasonable. But like even me personally, it's like I'm not taking him over AJ Brown. AJ Brown is a wide receiver, has a longer shelf life to hold his value. Although that's a conversation. If you wanted to take him above AJ Brown because of the point equity this year, I wouldn't have fight you on that. I still have to take quarterbacks like Herbert, Murray, Stroud, Lawrence, Jordan Love ahead of him. I still have to take the younger wide receivers, Ladd McConkey, Ted Rowe, McMillan, Marvin Harrison. Then you get up to the quarterback like Bo Nix. You get up to a Trey McBride. And then at that point, it's like, well, I would just rather the youth with Devon Achane and Amari and Hampton. So it's hard for me to raise Saquon Barkley much higher than the mid to back end of the 3rd.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. I wouldn't put him that low. I think he's got to be at least an early to mid 3rd. And speaking of Knicks, that is going to be my selection here because he is my next rated player. He's my 21st overall player, and I'm at the 212 here. So not a crazy amount of value sliding to me, but he was my next rated player. My next 2 players after him are also quarterbacks, so I'm probably not going to go in that direction.
I know.
So the toss up for me would be this next tier of wideouts, probably between McConkey, Harrison, and Hunter. And McMillan, I guess, as well would factor into that range. I'm going to go with McConkey here. He's my highest rated receiver officially in that range. I'm starting after going through, maybe we can even do a video on this because I think this is a half decent idea. After you and I went through our redraft rankings all of last week in terms of like how we would draft these guys right now, it's kind of affected how I've thought of certain players from a dynasty perspective. Because obviously
same.
And Harrison is one of them because I'm a little bit lower on redraft on Marvin Harrison, but I can't, move him too far down in dynasty, which is like a hard line to toe.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. Realistically, if you want to say, hey, I prefer Ladd McConkey to Marvin Harrison Jr. in dynasty, I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's a tough question because even despite that, Ladd McConkey could very well be the better redraft projection, but we're also baking in that by this time next year, he will be 25 years old. Whereas Marvin Harrison Jr., he is a little bit younger. So if he does have, a 1,000-yard year, you can kind of see the market preferring that because of the age. Although at this point, I think it's inarguable that Ladd McConkey is a better player.
Yeah, and Ryland says, don't you all have Hampton over Ladd in your rankings? I did until I moved Ladd up.
I have Ladd at, if you wanted to take Ladd over Omar, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, and I would personally. I guess that's the question of would you sell Ladd for the 102, 103 rookie pick? And I think the answer would be depending on my team window.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. I'm about to be back on the clock soon.
Yeah, there's nothing else that really sticks out to me as far as like the order the quarterbacks went off the board, I think is totally fine. I personally wouldn't take Caleb over Mahomes, but that's totally cool. I have Drake, Caleb, and Mahomes in the same tier. Bo Nix and Stroud are the next 2 quarterbacks off the board for me, so that I thought is fine as well. In terms of the wide receivers that have gone off the board, Hunter's, I'm sure Danny's hoping that he falls to him, but for the most part, I think everything's fine here. I would say the best 2 players on the board, if I were picking right now, are probably the 2 rookies in Hampton and Hunter. So,
spoiler alert, I'm going to take one of them.
Yeah. Worst timing to reset my internet.
Big pain. Yeah. No, I'm very comfortable with whoever between Hunter and Hampton fall here. They are my 2 clear highest rated players. And I'm going chalk here. My 102 in rookie drafts, a guy that I've said in the high end, you can make the case could be in a similar tier to Ash Genti. Travis Hunter.
You should just honestly, you shouldn't even say anything about Hunter anymore. Like
I don't need to.
I bet everybody has memorized your take on Hunter at this point.
Dude, 307 Hunter. It's free. It's
Yeah.
free. And I feel great because I am praying that I can get Travis.
You
Hunter
might have
in
to
the
go
startup.
into a cave for the whole offseason next year if he has like 9 fantasy points per game.
Bro, did you see they started 11 on 11 in their training camp? And I was just watching, or I was just reading like the fucking updates. It wasn't even like the videos. It was just Trevor Lawrence finds Travis Hunter, red zone touchdown. I just retweeted it.
Who cares, man? Who cares? OTAs.
I get it, bro. It's exciting. It doesn't mean anything, but it's fun. It's thrilling. You see a good player that you love making plays in practice. It doesn't mean fuck all, but guess what? It sure is entertaining.
I'm going to find the most urine player in the NFL who's getting camp hype right now. And every time you send me Travis Hunter camp hype, I'm going to send you that
Roman Wilson.
Yeah. Roman Wilson's getting camp hype also.
Yeah. Bro, the testosterone. My guy has learned steroids. Yeah. I mean,
this I really don't care about. I could care less what Hunter looks like on film clips of him running routes.
Start 9 have Hurts, Love and Bryce. Trade Hunter and Bryce for London. No.
Yeah, it seems a bit steep. That's more of a pro Bryce take than it is a pro Hunter take. Like if you could go Hunter for and something a little bit smaller for London, I'd be fine with it. I know Danny's probably like, I have Hunter 16 tiers ahead of London, so I wouldn't do that.
No, I have London 1 spot higher, but with that being said,
yeah,
I have
Hunter in a 2 for London or something like that, but I probably wouldn't go much higher than that.
Regardless, they're literally back to back in my rankings.
Yeah. Yeah, still nothing super surprising so far. The top 6 or so running backs off the board. Quarterback wise, other than Justin Herbert being an overrated fraud, I don't really see anything I disagree with too much. Just gonna.
The right side of the board just said, fuck a quarterback.
Yeah.
It up is intending to establish the fucking rock.
Yeah, Dynasty startup strategy, for what it's worth, has been affected a little bit for me by, I know I didn't follow it in this video exactly, but knowing that quarterback is so deep from like a best ball and redraft standpoint, it does kind of factor in how I would view these guys a little bit from a Dynasty lens. The challenging thing with Dynasty is that you have to like balance the whole value insulation of quarterbacks versus like production that they're giving you. But yeah, I think generally speaking, people taking the strategy that the back half of the board is taking here and being like, hey, I'd rather double tap 2 quarterbacks in this territory than take, an early round quarterback or whatever. I don't think that's an outrageous
I just think
take.
It's a lot riskier because obviously the reason why you're taking a young anchor quarterback at the top is because, like you said, the shelf life and knowing the dynasty market for the most part, with specifically more of the proven guys. Like obviously I'm taking more of a risk on a guy like Caleb, but let's just say like Jalen Hurts. The reason why you take him at 107 is because even if he has a bad year, he's still going to be a first round starter pick this time next year.
Yeah, the tough thing for me is like I did that video when I was in Mexico about how the quarterback turnover from like QB 15 to 18 or so in the quarterback dynasty rankings to the quarterback 30-ish territory. It's like pretty high turnover at the quarterback position with who's ranked there year over year. Like you think of guys like Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson and Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins and guys that just completely fall off the face of the earth. Like the reality of the NFL is that like 1/3 of the league is unhappy with their quarterback situation on any calendar offseason, realistically.
Yeah. Also, quite the dilemma here. A lot of wide receivers off the board. Tight end, I don't really feel comfortable with here. I think I will actually be leaning towards a running back. It'd be between a couple of guys to keep my young theme going because, obviously Hurts is the oldest of my bunch right here. So I'll have Caleb, obviously Travis Hunter. I think this is the spot I'm going to actually grab Trevion.
Yeah, I can't personally pull the trigger on Henderson over Hall, but I'm fine. I'm fine with it given your build. But generally in a vacuum, I would definitely want Hall over Henderson.
I mean, I have Henderson 2 spots higher.
Yeah, I have Hall still ahead of him.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Also, I'm actually, after doing some redraft research and knowing like the immediate opportunity ahead of him, I think I'm actually also going to move up Quinshon Judkins. I moved him to 9.
I had Judkins at Dynasty RB 11.
He's at 9 for me now.
Yeah, I had Henderson at 9 and Chase Brown at 10, and then I have Judkins at 11. So, yeah, that would be where do you have Hall then if those guys are all that high for you?
I moved Hall to 10.
Yeah, I like those. I like that value, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the tier that I have it is Bucky at 7, Henderson at 8, Judkins at 9, and Hall at 10. I did move Hall because initially this offseason I had Chase Brown over Hall. And although I do have Chase Brown a little bit higher in redraft, there is a little bit more concern with the long term. So I think I'm baking that in a little bit more now. And then regardless, though, that's 10, 11. Then McCaffrey, I moved up to 12, Jacobs 13, Taylor 14, and Kyron at 15. There's going to be people saying, oh, yeah, what about JT? Well, JT, I don't think is going to be back on the Colts next year. And JT, we talked about in the redraft video. The 17.5 points per game on surface level, you'll think, okay, RB7, good season. But it is pretty suspect to know, yes, he has spike week upside, but just how much of his season actually hinged on those last 3 games. And realistically, how many people that drafted him in weeks 1 to 14 were able to stomach his 13.7 points per game prior to the playoffs?
Yeah, this is a sharp board, man. Like my rankings are almost exactly lining up with like where these players are starting to go. I think I'm going to grab one receiver here, and I'm probably going to make that my boy Zay Flowers, who I grab all the time because I think he's undervalued. I guess I could double tap Smitty or Worthy here. See, the board is like kind of flush with RBs. That's why I'm like, I feel like I should get one before a run.
Dude, I'm not even the running back guy, and I had to take one because it was too fresh.
I mean, you were shit talking Jonathan Taylor just now, but I think I might have to take him.
And shit talking is relative too, because I still have Jonathan Taylor ranked, what, like 50 something overall? Wait, where is he?
Yeah, I just took him. I have him RB12 still. So like I think getting a top 12 running back versus like, you know, Smith or Worthy or something, to me, I think a top 12 running back probably trumps that.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to shuffle a little bit this mid-range because I don't know why the quarterbacks ended up higher here. So I'm just going to change a little bit. Because for some reason in my rankings, the mid-tier quarterbacks were higher than this range of running backs. And quite frankly, I just don't agree with that. So I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment here. 112, what? Am I tripping?
Got a couple questions in the chat that I think are interesting. Rylan says, can you talk through Bucky? I'm so conflicted on him in Dynasty. So, I mean, short-term wise, he's a top 10 running back for both of us in redraft. So that gives you confidence from a 22-year-old back to be a top 10 redraft pick.
Yep.
But not to mention, he does have a situation where Rachaad White is a free agent after this year. So from a Dynasty perspective, let's say Bucky Irving has a 60% snap share this year and he finishes RB7 or 8 in points per game. Next year, Rachaad White he put out an Instagram post basically saying one last ride or something. Like he's gone. Like it'll probably be Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving in the backfield next year if I had to guess, or maybe a running back that they select in the 2026 class. My thing with Bucky is that I think he'll probably be like the Kyron Williams career trajectory where he's undervalued while he's on his rookie contract because people are worried about the long-term upside of a guy who was a 4th round pick.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
So, I mean, for me, I value him still as a top 7 guy in Dynasty running back rankings.
Yeah, Bucky Irving, right?
Yeah.
So I'm back on the clock here. And like I mentioned, I did move Quinshon Judkins up my rankings. But with that being said, I still have as my 107 in rookie classes available here at the 507. I took one of his teammates here with Trevion Henderson. I'm going to go with your boy, Tampa Bay Buccaneer great Emeka Egbuka. Like I said, if I was a team that, quite frankly, was a little bit more pot committed this year, I would want a more immediate redraft projection. But because I'm in a position where this is more of a 1-year punt type of team, maybe Travis Hunter's even better in year 2. Obviously, Trevion Henderson gets more of a workload in year 2. And Emeka Egbuka, maybe one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers receivers currently on the team, retires for year 2. I think that's going to be my timeline is year 2 and on.
I will challenge anybody in the comments right now to find a draft that we've done where Danny has not drafted like 5 or 6 rookies. Cause I don't,
you're not wrong.
Like I will, like, I'm not even kidding.
You're
I'll
not wrong.
give you a free annual sub if you guys can find a draft where Danny went competitive because I don't think it exists.
When the board falls this way, like it feels free. It feels like I can't. You're comfortable taking the risk of all these rookies. Yeah. Some dynasty players, like I'll play devil's advocate of somebody looking at your team right now. They're like, you have nobody that's proven right now. You could reasonably, let's say Henderson doesn't have a great year this year. Egbuka doesn't have a whole lot of production this year. You could have a couple assets that lost a lot of value. Well, how would you counter that? Because I believe on the projections for all these guys. I scouted all these guys intently. On top of that too, they are afforded the opportunity to not be high-end production year 1, because they're rookies. We will give them the benefit of the doubt. People are already giving Emeka Egbuka the benefit of the doubt because Chris Godwin's there, because a guy like Mike Evans is there already. We've already done that whole song and dance last year with Roma Dunze, and Roma Dunze, objectively speaking,
lost value, someone might argue.
Lost value. How much? I don't think he lost much value compared to where he was going last year. Look at his startup ADP.
Right where Drake London was going, for example.
Sure, Drake London specifically from a micro perspective, but in terms of macro where he was going range and startups, I don't think he lost a ton of value, and that was with him having an objectively disappointing rookie year.
Right. I guess my argument would be maybe somebody looks back at this draft a year from now and they're like, dude, you passed on Breece Hall for Trevion Henderson. You passed on Devontae Smith or Christian McCaffrey or, somebody who had a good 2026 or 2025 year for Emeka Egbuka, who lost value, and you spent a 5th round pick on him and he's now worth a 9th round startup pick or something.
If those veterans hit and those rookies don't hit this year, you can make that argument. However, when we're comparing the overall range of outcomes, I know that the floor of the rookie in a down productive year will retain more value than the floor of a veteran not having their productive year. Vice versa, if these rookies go out and smash versus if the veteran were to go out and smash, these rookies inherently would have a higher value ceiling.
That's to J Metal's point, your team is looking like the best in the league in the Flock Analyzer a year from now if these rookies end up smashing. Again, it's more about, for me, I'm more willing to take veterans on the board than I am rookies just every single time, smashing rookie after rookie after rookie. I'll weave them in, but I'm not going to go crazy with the build.
Also, I guess that would be the context too, is before Burden was picked, even after Loveland was picked, people were valuing Rome basically exactly where he was last year.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed about the way that you draft in startups versus the way that I do, I am very much, I'll see what happens through the first 3 rounds, and I'll go one way or another, either competitive, short-term competitive, long-term competitive, or 1-year punt or whatever. Whereas I feel like you're more like, I'm probably going to go rebuild out of this startup unless something obscene falls to me.
Yeah, I play it by ear. Unless I have a clear opportunity to be at an advantage from a competitive standpoint, ideally, I want to keep getting as many assets as possible. For me, the value of time doesn't really matter as much, because if I'm going to be starting a league, I'm already pot committed at least for the next 3, 4, 5 years, however long the shelf life of that league is. Obviously, for leagues that we run, we know the shelf life is going to be extremely long. And the only other invitations to leagues I actually accept are ones from other analysts that I trust are going to have a long shelf life. So inherently, I'm already going in with the mindset that even if I don't win year one, it's not like I'm fearful of that league folding per se. So if I know that's going to be the long-term goal, and I've already seen sustained success with that strategy in other leagues I've been in the past, I really have no reason to veer from that.
Yeah, I mean, patience has proven very productive for both of our dynasty portfolios. When you go 1-year punt out of the startup, like, it generally works out by year 2, year 3. You have one of the best teams in the league. Even if you did hypothetically lose a couple trades here and there, miss on a couple rookie picks here and there.
Yeah, because ideally, when you're following the process, okay, from a micro standpoint, like you said, maybe you'll lose a couple of deals, but as long as your process is sound and for the majority, you're getting incremental value in each trade that you've made, and I'll point out too, Jared actually pointed this out. I do have a couple leagues where I drafted win out of the startup. No Flocken is the best example. You know this. No Flocken. I won first year. Last year I was in the semifinal. What did I do this year?
You tore it down, and now you have like 28 picks.
I have, I think, 9 or 10 firsts in the next 10 years, in the next 3 years.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
I'm on the clock right now with a back-to-back here. I'd be deciding between, I think Olave is my highest rated wide receiver on the board, and I believe James Cook is my highest rated running back on the board. And I think that's going to be the direction I go most likely. I have James Cook and Chuba Hubbard are very close for me from a redraft perspective, but I feel a little bit more confident that James Cook, 2 guys that are very much the 2 guys that we should probably talk about. Yep. If today James Cook got a 3-year extension with the Buffalo Bills, and Kyron Williams got a 3-year extension with the Los Angeles Rams, if they're worth, let's say, early 2s at the moment, are they worth confidently mid to late first round picks with an extension like that?
James Cook, and who was the other one you said?
Kyron.
Yeah, probably around that.
Yeah, like if you get a 3-year, $36 million deal for both of these players, I think you can probably confidently project them top 15 in redraft, and probably Kyron should be top 10 to 12 in redraft at that point. Yeah. And in Dynasty, I feel like let me ask you this. Kyron signs a 3-year, $36 million deal, first 2 years guaranteed. Would you rather have Chase Brown or Kyron Williams in Dynasty at that point.
Well, what's Chase Brown's status?
Chase Brown is his current status, which is that he's got to probably be good this year to even think about getting extended next year.
You have to go Kyron at that point.
Today, I'm saying, hypothetically.
Okay. You have to go Kyron at that point. But basically what I'm saying is if they both got extensions at a similar time, you're taking Chase Brown.
Yeah, that would only happen if Chase had a great year this year and Kyron maybe doesn't get extended until next year. That would be the only way that would probably take place, because Kyron is actually younger than Chase Brown as well.
Chase Brown's my age.
Yeah, I believe Kyron was born. I think maybe they were born the same year. Hold on.
Yeah, I think they're the same year.
He's still 20. He is younger in terms of when his birthday is, but they were both born in 2000.
Yeah, Chase Brown's probably like in April 2000 maybe.
Yeah, and Kyron was born. He'll be 25 at the beginning of training camp.
Yeah. What?
March to August. That's the difference.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
like Chase Brown was born like a week after you.
Yeah. No, I'm 12 days older than Chase Brown.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking with both Kyron and like James Cook. Let me ask you, James Cook or Chase Brown, if James Cook gets an extension.
Well, if Chase Brown gets one, I'm still taking Chase Brown.
No.
If Chase Brown doesn't get one, then
James Cook gets one today. Let's say the news comes out, he's getting one now.
Whichever running back gets a long-term extension has to be valued higher than the others until the others get their extensions. I think that's really just the easiest way to play it.
Okay. You think that's true, though? Even if James Cook gets an extension and you have Chase Brown probably at least a full round and a half ahead in redraft?
I personally think the extension matters a ton in Dynasty. Especially when it comes to going
question here, because I do think it's interesting to talk about this territory of running back.
Yeah, well, the way I view it is like these guys are being valued obviously based off their talent, but objectively speaking, they are also getting valued because they are tethered to elite situations. If they get extensions to these elite situations, like that'll trump the other not getting an elite or an extension, in my opinion, very easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, with that being said, this shocker. Are you shocked where I'm going here?
Are you going to take Joe Mixon?
No. Where do you think?
You're going to take George Pickens.
Keep going.
Are you going to take a rookie, Luther Burden? Danny's just going to be okay with half of his team face planning, I guess.
Dude, if the other half absolutely fucking smash, then it makes up the value.
Right, but my point is, why do you have to go all or nothing? Why don't you just take the rookies that you like and be like,
I like all these guys.
Veterans here now.
I like all these guys.
Fair enough. Young Money's asking about Zay Flowers too. I feel like I should probably address this. What's the upside for Zay? Lamar just had a great season, and Zay Flowers kind of, was a replaceable top 30 wide receiver in fantasy. I guess even though Zay Flowers is going to be 25 this year, he's not like the youngest third-year receiver in the world.
Let's get Bindles.
We used to, when you and I started playing fantasy football, the third-year wide receiver breakout was a real thing. And when somebody through 2 years has been as productive as Zay Flowers has been, I feel like it's only natural for us to say, yeah, year 3 to year 7 or whatever, which is a wide receiver's prime typically, he's probably about to have his best career production. So yeah, I can't see the Ravens throwing the ball more than 500 times this year, if that. But I still think that Zay Flowers can be a 130 target guy because he has proven that he's clearly the number one of that team. And I think naturally he's just going to continue to get better.
My issue is that there's actually very underrated target comp in Baltimore now, and they will not throw the ball more than 500 times.
I'm not denying the volume. Like you never hear me push back that I think that they're going to be high volume.
Well, it's also because
more than a 25% target share guy. I think he can take the step to be a 30% target share dude.
Well, I guess just my thought on it is I actually think Bateman, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely is a good supporting cast around him. Like this is an overall really
I don't disagree, but I think he's the alpha.
See that maybe that's where I disagree because I think for the most part, Mark Andrews is going to eat a ton of touchdown equity, and while he's going to be the leader in targets, I don't think it's going to be more than a 23 to 24% target share.
Well, he's been 26% in back-to-back years as a rookie and as a second-year player. I think
that's more so. I think the weapons around him are also finally healthy and finally consistent.
I don't know, dude. Andrews was good last year at 11 touchdowns. Isaiah Likely was more involved than he's ever been. Rashad Bateman had his best season of his career. I think Flowers still commanding a 25.7% target share under those circumstances as a second-year receiver is something that I don't think people really are giving too much credence to. I don't really understand why we're not projecting this guy to take an even bigger step this year.
And I mean, it's solid, but I just think at this point, that range of veteran wide receiver too, like you had that conversation with Ron, and I was personally agreeing with that side because like the 26, 27-year-old wide receiver twos, I just have objectively lower in that range compared to where you have them.
You do, but specifically that conversation was about Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith's in the same situation as Flowers is in, only
I agree.
AJ Brown on the Baltimore Ravens.
I agree. I have Devontae Smith 25 and Zay Flowers at 26.
He's also a year and a half older than Zay Flowers too.
And he's been a more consistent producer. I mean, we talked about the fact that Zay Flowers barely outscored Quentin Johnson last year.
You're right, but Zay Flowers also has elite reception perception numbers and elite efficiency metrics. It's not like he's not a good player.
He's a good player, but objectively, you can make the case that season did limit him, or that situation did limit him.
It did, and it will continue to. If Flowers was on a pass-heavy offense, I would be sitting here arguing that he has 18, 20 point per game upside.
Sorry, let me just make a pick, and I got you. I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. I just have that range of receiver lower because people have asked this question too. Like, I am objectively higher on the rookie wide receivers. That's the biggest micro difference in our rankings is you have that range of receiver, which in my opinion is sure safer bets, but in my opinion has limited market ceilings based off their age. Versus I have the rookies higher because I'm looking at that upside case a little bit more. That is the biggest.
My argument is that Burden, Egbuka, Golden, all of those guys in their 90th percentile are Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, Chris Olave. To me, I don't think they're going to be better players.
I disagree.
To be honest with you.
See, I disagree because this is the upside case, especially if they produce in year one, to be top 15 overall dynasty wide receivers.
I could get on board with you saying that from an asset perspective. I'm saying in totality for their careers, I don't think they'll be better receivers than those guys.
Sure, but if you know the value retention is higher given their age, wouldn't you want to invest now? And then if you have the opportunity to flip later on, do that instead?
Yeah, if it was a guaranteed that they would do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I have question marks about all of those players, including Egbuka, who I obviously love as a Buccaneers fan.
Yeah. That's just the biggest difference in our rankings. Because, I mean, quite frankly, after realistically wide receiver 19 to wide receiver like 35, even like I have Jameson Williams at 35, you could very well make the case he could be even higher.
Yeah, the way that we're looking at this is if we were in a baseball at bat right now, and I said there was a 60 to 70% chance that you're going to hit a double or a triple, and only a 10% chance that you're going to hit a home run versus a different at bat is a 25% chance that you'd hit a home run and a 40% chance that you'd hit a double or triple. I'm taking my guaranteed double or triple.
But I don't think that's a congruent argument because I do think it matters based off how many starters are in each league. I think that's sound process.
Well, this is a start 9, so I get your argument in a format like this. You and I play in deeper dynasty leagues,
to me, if I get, why would I take the safer asset in round 7 when I can get a similar production piece in like last year's Jacoby Myers, last year's Darnell Mooney in the round 12 area, in the round 13 area? Why wouldn't I want to swing on more upside knowing that in a year's time, my Brian Thomas Jr. asset has the ability to be a top 15 overall starter pick? I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. I would rather take those swings in the mid rounds, knowing that there's safe projections I can get later on in my startups. Like I said, Jacoby Myers types, Jerry Jeudy last year, Darnell Mooney last year, who quite frankly, from a projection standpoint, doesn't profile too much differently to Zay Flowers, for example.
I don't disagree with that take. I just think that it's harder than people think to predict the Jacoby Myers, Jerry Jeudy's, and Darnell Mooney's. And the other thing I would say about this too is you use Brian Thomas Jr. as an example, and I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. is in this class.
Yeah, I
don't think Golden and those guys are as good as BTJ was.
Counterpoint, we didn't think Brian Thomas Jr. was going to do that in his year 1. And in fact, you were lower on Brian Thomas.
I was, but I always recognized that he had a monster ceiling.
For sure.
Even though I was lower on whether or not he would hit it, I never once argued that he didn't have an elite ceiling.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. Do y'all have PTJ or Puka ranked higher? With the addition of Travis Hunter, I do have Puka Nacua ranked higher. And you can make the case, well, obviously Devontae Adams is added to the LA Rams. You can make the case because of a target competition standpoint immediately. You would prefer, Travis Hunter as a rookie, maybe not as much competition as especially what we saw from Devontae Adams last year. I just think because Travis Hunter's a rookie second overall pick, because Devontae Adams is on his way out, like I'm much more fearful over the top end ceiling of Travis being there than Devontae Adams long term. Again, it's not like I'm worried about Brian Thomas's ceiling. I just have to recognize maybe he can only access 90 to 95% of his pure ceiling because the 190 target outlier Julio Jones-esque season maybe isn't in the range of outcomes because he has another guy on the side of him that can command 150 targets.
Yeah, I'm of the same belief. I like BTJ a lot, but Puka, frankly, for the next 2 to 3 calendar years, just has probably a better projection.
Yeah. And Jordan, you can ask Corey. The majority of my startups I do approach in this similar fashion. Now, for what it's worth, I can't make trades in these startup mocks, and a lot of my aspect when I'm building a team like this will be trading down, insulating my picks a lot more because I'm taking these rookies, especially right now, where I would feel comfortable taking them personally if I didn't have to trade out. Because like in a lot of drafts, like you're not going to be like, obviously Travis Hunter's probably going to go high. Trevion Henderson's probably going to go high, but especially these rookie wide receivers in this range, I can make the case a lot of these guys would be cheaper in the majority of your startups. So I'd be able to trade down, pocket seconds, trade down a couple rounds, maybe pocket a first, and I throw back a second and another startup pick. Like that's how I'm maneuvering the board in a lot of these situations. I'm not just sitting and forced to pick the guy that I have highest rank. I'm maneuvering the board to put me in pockets where I can take my highest rank by a country mile, but also get the opportunity cost built in that I got insulation to do it.
Yeah, trading down and getting future picks is a big part of 1 year punt set of startups. Like it's almost impossible for you and I to simulate how it actually looks in a live stream like this. Like, because they're 8-hour clocks, there's constant trade discussion. Maybe we should. We're going to be doing a startup. I don't know. I guess you just joined one, but maybe you'll join.
I'm down to do another one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a fiend.
We're wanting to do another Dynasty startup. We don't know if it's going to be Devi or not. I think a lot of people are clamoring for it to be Devi. I know Jared in the chat wants to join a Devi league really bad. The only problem is that you and I don't commish Devi leagues, so we need someone to commish the league and whatnot. But we're going to probably do another Dynasty startup. I would imagine in the next like week or so, 2 weeks or so, we'll probably start drawing names and whatnot for it. We'll talk off camera about when we want to get that going, but that strategy, maybe if one of us does go 1 year punt out of the startup, we should maybe detail like from start to finish what happened the entire startup, like how to go 1 year punt out of a startup and exactly the trade discussions. Oh yeah, I collected 2 first-round picks in addition to the picks that I made. I've noticed usually do like you don't mind trading up during a startup, even if you're going 1 year punt, because you're just like, hey, I'll have my 4 elite assets and everybody else is going to suck on my roster. Whereas I'm like, I'm going to try and get as many bites at the apple as I can. So I'm collecting 2s and 1s if I can do it. And I'll also, sometimes take the swing on players that can accumulate value, whereas you sometimes will just trade out of the pick altogether.
Yeah, well, I mean, the prime example would be the Flock Me Silly League. If you remember, what I was basically doing is I made the trade with you. I basically swapped Kyler Murray for Devon Achane because I had a surplus at quarterback and you were going for a full tear. I already had so many assets on my team. So I said, hey, you know what? I can probably 1 year punt this thing this year. Try to, turn into my house money window come next year where I have 3 2026 ones. And I also have 3 2027 ones where if I needed to move one in next year, I'd have the affordability to do so, but I'd also have it in the back pocket where I don't necessarily need to. I have a youngish team. On top of that, Devon Achane, if he has a big time high in season, he's the RB2 in points per game. I have the affordability to also make the decision because I'm not a full-fledged contender right now to be able to flip him for maybe a younger running back plus insulation. Like if Quinshon Judkins is getting a rookie workload, is looking good, I probably could be able to get Quinshon Judkins plus for him at that point.
Yeah. It's an interesting strategy. Like, I mean, both of us have done it many times and it has paid off very, very well in a lot of our portfolios. Like in our No Flockin' portfolio, for example, I went 1 year punt out of the startup and now my team's kind of a fucking machine as a result. So
it's actually hilarious because I drafted the win now of the startup. 2 years later, you look at my team and you're like, oh, shoot, Danny's going to be like the next big team because I have like 10 ones in the first few years. And basically, you were just that team out of the startup.
It's funny because you and I are, as many startups as you and I are in together, we are almost never doing the same thing at the same time.
Outside of Tone Setter Truthers, I feel like.
Well, and even then, like you weren't competitive the first year or two of that league, and I've been competitive the whole time.
Yeah. No, the first year, and then I think year 2 is when I had all my picks and I transitioned them into players. I will say though, like for 2023, if I had made a couple of those picks, it could have been really nice. Like if I just took like a Gibbs or something.
Yeah, no, definitely. A reminder, I just dropped it in the chat. New Instagram, go check it out. It's going to be basically my TikTok plus Danny's new TikTok collaborated into one Instagram. If you guys are not on TikTok, especially, that would be good for you. Get all of our short form content over there. And then also we're going to be doing some team reviews and trade questions after this live stream is done. I saw Jay Metal submitted a team for review. So we're up to 6 reviews that we're going to have to tackle now. But if you guys do want your team reviewed, that will be covered in the second hour here. Yeah, a lot of interesting players. When it comes to the redraft of it all, there's this territory of running backs is really hard to parse through, I think. I know we're in a dynasty draft, but the immediate projection of all these guys is very important. When it comes to David Montgomery, James Conner, Isaiah Pacheco, Brian Robinson, I mean, Tracy and Etienne, probably not so much. They're a little bit younger than those guys, but what are your thoughts on some of these guys from like their immediate short-term projection when it comes to Conner, Montgomery, Pacheco, Robinson? You could group in Swift and Pollard and some of those guys as well.
So Conner, Montgomery, Pollard, Pacheco, Swift, like
yeah. Is there anybody that's like, I actually really like that guy? Like some of these guys are like, they're kind of whatever production pieces. But is there anyone that you're like, I actually really like that asset?
There isn't that really stands out to me, to be honest. Like, I understand where they're going. They're more so just, I'm fine if you were to make that pick in this range, but there's none I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you got an absolute steal. If I'm looking at the running back range, in fact, I actually prefer waiting a little bit and getting like, I mean, obviously this is going to be team dependent. Like if you're an older team competing now, like I understand going with those guys, but to me, it's like, I would rather take the upside shot, like a Trey Benson a couple rounds later. I'd rather take the upside shot on like even Tank Bigsby, Tajay Spears, guys like that.
Yeah. Danny's got a combined like point per game average of his fantasy team here is like
75.
0.5. Other than Hurts and Judy, you have nobody on your roster that's ever been relevant for fantasy before, which maybe makes some people queasy watching this, but Danny's cool doing it. I just think you've gone overboard here. I think after Igbuka, I would have maybe started venturing into some veteran guys.
Quite frankly, the rookies were just clearly the highest rated players for me on the board at each pick.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's really what it's about. But like I said, in a startup situation, I'd be able to maneuver the board a little bit and get value. Because, I mean, Cam Ward and Dak at the 5'10", 6'3", like for not starting quarterback early, getting Ward and Prescott at 5'10", 6'3" is a really, really good duo there for Happen.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about earlier. I was like, I think this back end of the board has kind of realized that because they have 2 picks close to each other, they can kind of fall into the quarterback run and take their 2 quarterbacks where they need to. Like all of these guys, you got Love, Tua, Richardson, you got Mayfield, Penix, you got Ward, Prescott, you got Murray and Goff, and then you got, I mean, Fields, Darnold, Geno's a little weaker than I would want to be, but the rest of those teams, I feel pretty confident. I like the Kyler and Goff one for sure, and the Love. I wouldn't have taken Richardson because you guys know I'm not a fan of him, but Love and Tua is fine with me.
So I take Kyle Williams here. It's really interesting, right? Because right now, reading the tea leaves, what we're hearing in terms of Stephon Diggs, the disciplinary stuff, obviously older wide receiver coming off of the injury, hasn't really been with the team. I think he finally reported.
He's at OTAs now, yeah.
When you look at Kyle Williams over in the best ball markets, Kyle Williams is what, an 11th round pick right now?
Yes, I think that's about where he's going.
And he's 23 years old, and I'm taking him at the 10-6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if he's going this about where he goes in redraft and a startup, I mean, he's probably a decent option. We do know, though, inherently, one thing I've learned a little bit about underdog ADP in terms of the wide receiver position, especially after like wide receiver 45 off the board, is anybody who has any remote conceivable ceiling is no longer going undervalued in underdog wide receiver rankings. Like, oh, you're a rookie wide receiver who had, 20% of the dynasty market liked you. Welcome to the 9th round. Like you're not going in the 17th round anymore, Kyle Williams types.
Yeah.
Sawyer says, is there any asset in next year's draft that should make me think twice about trading it for Tet? So I've begun to look into the quarterback position because I've already done the wide receivers to target and avoid in 2026, the running backs to target and avoid in 2026. Definitely some upside at wide receiver, although there's not a lot of proven commodities. Definitely some upside at running back, although I think most of the good ones will be going really high in rookie drafts, like the Jeremiah Loves and the Nick Singletons of the world and whatnot. But I will say, we got some mobile quarterbacks next year, man. And mobile quarterbacks are going to make you think twice about trading for assets now with those picks. Because if Lenora Sellers can put it all together, if John Mateer can put it all together, if Cade Klubnik can put it all together, like dude, you get mobile quarterbacks go high, man. Like you look at what Jaden Daniels has done since he's been in the NFL. Like you're untouchable once you're a mobile quarterback and you hit as a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's the reason that Trey Lance and Anthony Richardson didn't do shit before they were valued as first round startup assets, because we're just so thirsty for quarterbacks who can run the football.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that like you have to pick that guy and not sell him at all, because obviously you've seen with all those quarterbacks, they have had insane value retention. Maybe when they're on the field, play hasn't deserved it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much where you got to go with the quarterback position. Like if we get 3 first-round quarterbacks next year, the 2026 picks are going to look a little bit better than people think.
Yo, this man packing up got a Jets quarterback room, all eras of Jets quarterbacks.
Fields,
that's fucking comedy. All you need is Zach Wilson. Yo, pack it up. If you're watching right now, take Zach Wilson to the final round for the meme.
Yeah, and speaking just on the 2026 class in general, this season, by week 7 or 8 of the college football season, we're going to know whether or not the 2026 picks were right to be discounted, because a lot of people are not excited about 2026 first rounders, or we're going to be like, holy shit, the 2026 class could be a lot better than people think, because the wide receivers that I broke down yesterday, there's some legit ceiling guys that could absolutely crush this year. The question is how many of them actually do it, and same goes for the 2026 quarterbacks too, because it's equally in the range of outcomes, in my opinion, that Arch Manning goes back to school and we're elevating some bum-ass QB to like the only first-round quarterback that we have. Yeah. Like what happens if, I'm not going to say Cade Klubnik's a bum-ass QB. Well, let's just use him as an example.
Wait, you picked the one guy I have on my Devi roster.
I'm just using Cade as an example. Let's say Cade Klubnik is the consensus QB1, 9 months from now, when we get into the calendar of the draft season and he had a great season and he's the only guy really that the NFL views as a first round quarterback, like that's going to hurt 2026 picks. I mean, Klubnik himself can run the football, so he'll be half decent from like a fantasy perspective, but it is within the range of outcomes that A, Arch Manning is not in the class, which I don't think he will be, and B, we don't really have another quarterback that we feel excited about, and we're kind of elevating, and we need a Cam Ward like emergence from somebody.
Well, it's funny because when you look at my quarterback core in our Devi Degeneracy League specifically, first of all, I don't expect Yamaleva to declare. I think he's going to play at least one more season after.
There's absolutely zero chance he declares, in my opinion.
I think especially because he's going obviously from that weird Tennessee offense to more of a pro style offense. He's probably going to want to put up 2 years of good tape before he declares.
I'd be shocked if he came out, for sure.
So he's like my upside shot of the Devi Degeneracy like quarterback core, because even though he's not like fully established yet, obviously he was a high 5-star recruit, so he's got the upside too. And then I have 2 just like 2026 guys that have been getting first round buzz: Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik. I feel confident that one of them is probably going to end up in the first round, but I also wouldn't be shocked if either were just like, it's like the vanilla ice cream of the class.
Yeah, like next year's quarterback class, to give you guys an idea, in terms of PFF passing grade in college football last year, Cade Klubnik was 5th, tied for 5th with Tyler Shuck, actually, ironically. Then we have, who's the next one? Sam Levitt was 15th. Nico was 17th. Nussmeier was 20th. Beck was 23rd. Aller was 27th. Anybody else? I mean, the USC quarterback, Jordan Maeva, I don't think he'll end up being in next year's class, but he technically could declare. I think that's for the most part, like main quarterbacks that could be in next year's class. Where does Mateer rank? I don't even actually remember. He didn't really rank that highly as a passer in terms of PFF grade, but like there's guys that could emerge. He's 80th in PFF passing grade, but he did have 29 passing touchdowns, which was like top 7 in the country.
And probably after we finish this real quick, obviously afterwards we will be answering the site questions, but just want to give the people, because obviously there's some newer potential Devi players. We've been talking about Devi a little bit more. Maybe some of you guys got into leagues. Just kind of want to show you guys like what our Devi pools look like right now to give you an idea of kind of how the format looks like.
Yeah. Are you sharing your screen right now?
I said after the draft I will.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you can do it quick, because we wanted to get it to
that's a good point.
Reviews in the second hour.
You're right. Here, I can just do it right now because these are the last couple picks, whatever. So this is for the Devi Degeneracy League. Obviously, your team is a little bit more set in this league. You can.
I won, so
yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot of Debbie picks because I ended up winning last year. But I drafted Nick Anderson last offseason. He's a decent asset. He's on LSU now. I don't know why it says Oklahoma still. John Mateer on Oklahoma, who I drafted this year. Khalik Lockett, Tyler Lockett's younger brother, I drafted. Who's going to Texas. Jaden Greathouse, a receiver I talked about in yesterday's video. And then Ahmad Hardy, who is technically 2027 eligible, but he could come out this year if he has a great year.
Yeah, for sure. And then my set, again, like I made the semis last year, I believe, but I'm kind of just rebuilding my asset value, traded away Saquon Barkley for what ended up being the 111. 111 ended up being Cade Klubnik. I traded Saquon Barkley for Luther Burden plus Cade Klubnik. If Cade Klubnik goes as a first-round quarterback next year, he's probably going to be a mid to back-end first-round pick in rookie drafts. So at that point, it's Saquon Barkley for 2 late 1/early 2s. I'm comfortable with that. Like I mentioned, the rest of the core here, Darius Taylor, Cam Coleman, Jonah Coleman, Nussmeier, Yamaleva, Bryant Westco was my first pick in this Devi draft this year, going into his sophomore year over there at what's called Clemson. Mekhi Hughes obviously transfers to Oregon. Cade Klubnik, Emmett Mosley transfers to your Texas Longhorns. Isaac Brown of Louisville, really exciting freshman year, undersized but very, very efficient, very, very big workload.
Clock, by the way,
Elijah Surratt and Bryson Washington. So that's the one. Again, I will make my quickly in this draft here. Here we both looked at the same time. And let me just see running backs. I could go with like a Dylan Sampson type. I think that's. I have so many rookies. You know what? Let me balance it out. I'll go with the Jalen Warren this time.
Brady's asking in that league who has the best Debbie roster. I mean, Danny, I think you have the most players on your Debbie roster. All of my Debbie picks from last year ended up being in this class pretty much. That's how my strategy is in Dynasty. I usually or in Debbie leagues, I usually like to take players who are in the upcoming class because we have more information on them. So I got Travis Hunter and Amari and Hampton and Ollie Gordon and stuff coming onto my team this year. So that's why my Debbie roster doesn't have a whole lot of players. And even Nick Anderson, I thought was going to be in this year's class, and he ended up going back to school because he was hurt all year.
Yeah, for sure. You're about to be on the clock, so you have a couple picks. And then once I make my pick while the draft is finishing, I'll quickly show the Debbie rosters in the Disciples League. And don't worry, J Metal, if you don't want us to show your Devies, I can put a blocker on the screen or something.
In Debbie Degeneracy, who just quickly scan the roster on the side. Does anybody have like a monster Debbie roster? I'm just curious because someone Brady asked that in the chat.
I mean, I'm biased, but I think mine's probably the best.
But is there anybody who has like less players, but just like super high end guys?
Like Flet's got Jeremiah Love, but he's not really got much else in terms of just high. I mean, Decoria Moore is really good too. Let me see. Jacobs Anderson has Lenore Sellers, but that's about it.
Who has Smith?
Jeremiah? Riley does. Riley's also got a good core too, for what it's worth. I would say honestly, Riley and me probably have the best 2 Debbie cores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the clock here.
I also had Genty graduate too, so that helps.
Yeah. That's my Debbie core doesn't look that good because I had Hunter and Hampton graduate to the NFL.
That's a good point. Yeah,
dude, I mean, they were the 102 and 103 in rookie classes, so I can't really get much better than that, considering you picked Genty before I could pick him.
Bro, I tried so hard to try to get freaking Omarion off of you too last year.
I wasn't trading Omarion last year. People kept offering me. You know how many garbage offers I got for Travis Hunter last year? Like disrespectful shit was sent to me.
Dude, I am pissed that I didn't fucking trade for Hunter in either of the leagues. Also, here, by the way, it's your pick.
Yeah, I'm building out a competitive team here, so I just grabbed Deebo Samuel and Stephon Diggs to go along with the rest of my receivers and running backs here. I feel like I could win with a team like this out of the startup, so that was kind of the direction I went. I guess I only have 2 quarterbacks, and that's kind of a bit of an issue, but like, I mean, what am I going to take, Jalen Milroe, Shadur Sanders, or Tyler Shuck here? I feel like Diggs and Samuel would accomplish my winning window a little bit too early, and Mason asked this question. I think this is interesting. Too early to know, but how do you rank the 2026 class to 2025, 24, 23, 22? 100% not going to be as good as 24. It's just the best one that we had the last
22's got to be the best comparable.
No. The running back position is best comparable to 2019 in terms of the profiles that we have right now. So that's the best comparable in terms of, and that was the Jacobs, Montgomery, Miles Sanders class. And then the wide receiver position was best comparable to 2018. That was the DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley class. But in terms of the most recent, 4 years, I would say positional strengths are going to be running back and probably quarterback. And we haven't really seen many classes like that. I would say probably 2023 would be the best comparable because the wide receiver class is probably going to be similar to that Addison, JSN kind of territory. And then the running back position will probably be comparable to 2023, where you got like the Bijan and Gibbs at the top with potentially the top two guys. And then quarterback wise, you're kind of, we do not have Bryce Young, CJ Stroud though. That'd be the only difference.
So question I asked, if the quarterbacks were to develop like very strongly, like what's the upside for this class? Can we get to like 2021?
No, I wouldn't say so, because even though the 2021 quarterbacks didn't hit in the NFL, they were just like
maybe outside of like a Chase.
Yeah.
Say outside of a Chase.
No, it's not going to be as good as 2021.
No?
2021's premier talent, dude, with Smith and Chase and Waddle.
Well, that's what I mean. Like if you took Chase out of that
year, there's no like Etienne and Harrison. Like the running back class, I guess, is comparable to 2021's, but quarterback's not even close. And same with the wide receiver class.
Sure. I was just trying to paint a picture. Like if the quarterback core or class this year were to materialize, like the Sellers had a breakout year. Clay Kublik did what he did again last year, like 45 touchdowns, 6 picks or whatever he was. Obviously a couple other breakouts happened. Like, I mean, right now, like 4 quarterbacks are being mocked in round 1.
The best comparable class for this one is 2019, in my opinion. 2019 had Kyler at the top. I think we'll get one quarterback that's
Jones
like a
Haskins.
Kyler Murray caliber asset. 2019's running back class is very similar to this year's running back class. 2019 had Metcalf and Debo and AJ Brown and some of those guys. If some of the guys like the Nick Andersons, Nick Harbors, guys really physically talented, this class at wide receiver, like I talked about in yesterday's video, is big physically. There's a lot of big wide receivers in this class. I could see the 2019 class being the best comparable for this one coming up.
Also, I just showed the Debbie Degeneracy pool. I'll make this really quick. You mentioned like standout pool in the last one. And again, I like mine. I like a couple other ones, like I said, but there wasn't like one clear, oh my God, like this guy's got every fucking good player. It makes sense when you look at my NFL roster, but this is probably as good of a Debbie pool as you can get.
Jalen Daniels, Lenore Sellers, Abu Sama, Rip, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Jonah Coleman, Ryan Williams, Jordan Tyson, and Nick Anderson. Yeah, I mean, like you could very well have the wide receiver 1 and 2 for the next 2 classes between Smith and Ryan Williams in 27 and Tyson and Anderson potentially next year.
Yeah,
I do think, and Tate as well. I mean, those are probably the top 3 receivers I would imagine in next year's class.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. And then if Sellers ends up being that guy and he has a great year at South Carolina, because like the end of the season, like he almost got them to the college football playoff. Like if you
there's enough Russian quarterbacks in this year's class that we might have a really good quarterback asset next year. Between Sellers, Klubnik, Mateer, those guys all rushed for like 1,000 yards last year in college football.
Yeah, that's fucking wild.
So we might get a good enough rusher next year that we have a legit dude at the quarterback position. It's not quite to the level of some of these other quarterback classes that we've seen. Like there is absolutely not a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud or a Caleb Williams or somebody like that in this quarterback class, unless they just have a monster season. We don't know going into the season that they're that caliber of player. And that's why I think 2019 is a comparable quarterback class, because we saw a couple first round quarterbacks that year between DJ and Haskins and Murray, but we didn't really know that those guys were all going to be studs going into that season.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But anyways, that is the end of this startup draft. Again, we could just quickly go over our teams really fast. If anybody in the chat wants us to go over their team, we can definitely do that. But then we're going to pivot over to site questions because we do want to wrap this stream up in about 2 hours if we can. Josh Allen, Bo Nix. I mean, I felt like I got 2 good quarterback values. Nothing really slid to me at the 212. I was hoping I'd get better assets sliding to me, but you guys kind of followed my rankings almost verbatim. So Drake May would have been awesome if he would have fallen. Nico would have been a little bit better. London would have been a little bit better. But for the most part, I feel good about that. My wide receiver core, I started out young with Ladd McConkey and Zay Flowers and Olave as well. But by the time I got to the end of the 6th, 7th round, I realized I was competitive. So I grabbed Godwin, Debo Samuel, and Stephon Diggs to close out my wide receiver core. And then JT, James Cook, David Montgomery, and DeAndre Swift. Between those guys, I feel comfortable I could get running back 1 and running back 2 production out of them. And then Tucker Kraft was the tight end I chose to go with. It was between him and Andrews for sure. But I feel like given that Kraft has a similar redraft projection and is much younger without the injury concern, I feel like he's the better dynasty asset at this point in time between him and Andrews. So that's why I went with Kraft there. But for the most part, I feel decent about this team. I don't feel excellent about it, but I feel decent about it.
Yeah, and then if you click my team too, as you guys can see, pretty evident what my theme was early on. I am higher on a lot of the rookie projections compared to the startup ADP, which is evident based on some of these picks. Like I said, in the majority of my startups, if I am in a situation where it is a room like this, the rookies are following it quite a bit, I would be maneuvering the board and not taking them where I have them ranked. But because we're in a mock draft, I will be aggressive on these guys. I'm comfortable taking them ahead of ADP. Like you guys can see, Hunter, my 102 in the classic, I'd be taking the second round of startups. Trevion Henderson, about where I have him ranked. I think he's my 44th overall player. 4-6 would be what, give or take 42 overall, I think that would be.
Yes.
Yeah, and the main difference there is obviously a couple of the quarterbacks I would have ahead, but I'm not going to take a third quarterback in the first 4 rounds of a mock. That's just bad practice for you guys. Emeka Buka at the 5-7, I do see him go quite a bit later in the majority of markets. However, he's my wide receiver 19 in Dynasty. Similar case, Golden, I have him at 21. Burden, I have him at 22. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is very undervalued on the market right now. 25-year-old wide receiver coming off a 1,200-yard year. Bashal Tutin right now. I also get Tank Bigsby later on. I feel confident with one of those Jaguars running backs projections. Plus, I think both of them, for what it's worth, I think the Jaguars backfield as a whole kind of undervalued at the market, so don't mind taking 2 stabs there. Kyle Williams, like I said, could be a big time riser throughout the summer if there's more negative on Stephon Diggs. In fact, he's already going in the 11th round on best ball right now. And then finally, I wrapped up the draft. Jalen Warren, again, I could have went with another rookie running back. Just grab the guy that I think is a good player. And if anything were to happen, Caleb Johnson has some spike week upside. And Terrence Ferguson, young athletic second round tight end.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So a couple people asked for a little team breakdown here. We got, where was it? 110. Happen said he wanted a team breakdown here. So we got a Lamb, Gibbs, McMillan, AJ Brown. So very heavy on the skill positions at the beginning of the draft. And then, like Danny mentioned earlier, Cam Ward, Dak Prescott as your 2 quarterbacks. Pickens, Ayuk, again, maybe a little bit overkill on the wide receiver position just because you already had 3 of your first 4 picks invested. But I like the way that you built this thing out. Connor, Spears, Kelsey, and those guys. The only thing that doesn't really make sense, and I assume you just took the value because he was falling so far, is Kelsey doesn't really fit this team. But at the same time, you're going to probably be competitive year 1. And even though you have Cam Ward there, he should start from week 1 and he could be a useful option for you. I probably would have prioritized where you took potentially like a Kelsey or a Trey Harris or a James Conner. I might have prioritized like a Geno Smith or a Matthew Stafford or something. Like Stafford Jordan took him at the 13-4. Like, to me, I don't think there was probably any reason to take Trey Harris or Tajay Spears or Jordan Mason's the guy that's cut off that you guys can't see right now. I definitely probably would have taken a quarterback 3 there just because Cam Ward's a little bit older. You don't know how well he's going to be playing right away. I think Stafford with one of your final 2 picks would have been the only thing I'd really change about this.
Yeah, I mean, Stafford as a whole is just very undervalued in this draft. Even if we're worried about the long-term upside, getting a mid-end quarterback 2, and what would that be, round 13? Very, very solid value there for where Jordan got him. We also saw Pack It Up mentioned. You guys can look at my team. Obviously, I went with a very polarizing strategy. We'll talk about, again, whoever asked. Team 5 asked. Cal Knox asked as well, so we'll make sure we cover them. Did you say Dylan asked too, or no?
I don't know where you're seeing that.
No, because I saw you hovered on his name for a second, but maybe.
Oh, no. So Pack It Up is the team that we can break down here. Obviously, very weak at the quarterback position and pretty weak at wide receiver too. It's a start 9 and technically 2 running back, 2 flex. You could start Barkley, Bijan, Hampton, and McCaffrey every single week. This is the high testosterone build right here. That's what you're going for. You're hoping that your running backs carry you and that you can get serviceable quarterback and wide receiver production. But I mean, I wouldn't build a team like this. It's one thing to do this in like best ball or redraft to get a little bit unique, but in Dynasty, you kind of have to think about what your long-term appeal is with a team like this, where Barkley and McCaffrey could be assets on the fall. You pretty much have to win year 1 for this to work.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know if you'd necessarily have the firepower at quarterback and wide receiver to be able to compete. I think it would be an interesting thought experiment to see how good this team did during the year. Because if you get 2 or 3 20-point per game running backs out of these guys, you probably could win the league with this team. It's just weird that, what your long-term appeal is going to look like. I think I probably just, if you're going to take Barkley that high, I'm okay with the McCaffrey pick because you took Barkley that high, but I probably would have gone just straight up competitive after you selected Barkley and gone with a wide receiver over Hampton and gone with, straight production, like almost drafting like a redraft league. I think you would have been better off doing that than what you ended up doing personally.
Yeah, I would agree. Once you're committed like that, you kind of have to stay committed, like balancing it out. Again, definitely not a build that I personally would ever do. But yeah,
The robust RB, it can work, man. If you get 3 20-point per game running backs here, Barkley's a machine, Bijan's a machine, McCaffrey's a machine, and Hampton's a 16-point per game guy, you could win a league with a team like this. I'm not saying you couldn't win a league. I just would worry about the long-term appeal of it.
The asset value, though, you have to inherently know that you made the commitment, you had the opportunity to buy a house, and you bought a sports car. And it's like, you're going to enjoy that drive. It's going to be fun. Like, hell, you're going to get to your destination. Maybe you win a ton of money because, people just see, wow, this guy's stylish in his sports car. I want to just throw money at him. I don't know why I said that. That's not even remotely applicable, but you get what I mean. Like, by this time next year, you're accepting the fact that that sports car is not going to be worth as much as it is out of the lot.
It's the Bugatti and the terrible house meme. Where you got the Bugatti in the driveway. We got Team 5.
The girls are going to love it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what Hidden Truths ended up doing here. I like the value that you got at pretty much every single pick that you made, to be honest. I think every single one's good value.
Wide receiver core is weak, though.
Yeah, wide receiver core is definitely weak. Given that you have London, Harrison, Brees, Jacobs, those type of guys, I don't necessarily I like the Bryce Young pick just to go Adams over value, Higgins, but I might have gone with a more competitive quarterback. And then where you took Higgins, Dart, and Besh, I probably take competitive assets there.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. If you had maneuvered this, and again, as much as I love Higgins, am I reading that right? Would or would not have Devontae Adams been available on the board? Regardless, whether it was Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill, one of them would have been available.
Yeah, and I guess the other way you could flip this too is that other than Jacobs, you have a rebuilding team. You know what I mean? Like, because I looked at that, once you took Jacobs, you probably should have gone competitive, but you also could have just not taken Jacobs and gone with like Igbuka or something instead, and then continued out a rebuilding type of shell. Generally speaking, I would, if you kind of make that decision to go, take the competitive running back like Josh Jacobs, probably want to commit to that and, continue to take competitive assets at that point in time. But there's something to be said for building and, tight roping a balanced team. I just think that you might be leaving some points on the board when through 5 rounds, you definitely could have competed with this team. Like these are a couple horse type of assets for sure that you had there. And then we'll break down one more team here, which was from Cal Knox. We got Jefferson, Mahomes, Herbert, Judkins, Laporta, Walker, Caleb Johnson, Waddle, Sutton, and so on there. Again, in totality, I don't totally disagree with any of the actual pick values. I just don't really love being that weak at wide receiver.
Yeah. I think personally, if you were to have taken, instead of the Kenneth Walker pick, a wide receiver there, and then maybe where you took Sutton or Coleman, drafted a running back at that spot. Like if we subbed out
DK Metcalf, Jordan Addison, Chris Olave or
Kenneth Walker, and then subbed in like Tank Bigsby for Keon Coleman, you're feeling a lot better about this.
Yeah, but generally, I think the rest
it's a good team regardless.
We're half decent. Yeah. I think it's a smidge early to take Judkins over Breece Hall and Chase Brown, but for the most part, I don't really disagree with anything. And obviously, I'm not big on Herbert from a production standpoint, so I probably would have went with Kyler there instead. But other than that, you're
not gonna like my rankings. Then I did move Judkins over both of them.
Yeah, no, I know you're a little bit, not higher on Judkins than me from like a talent standpoint. I like Breece Hall and Chase Brown's immediate projection a little bit better, especially when you're talking about 2 running back or 3 running backs. I will, sometimes use the redraft tiebreaker a little bit more liberally.
I think that's very reasonable. I just look at it like if you're plugging in a top 40 pick on a team that wants to run the football behind a good offensive line and a good scheme, like I just have a hard time not seeing him as an RB2 in redraft. And then I'm thinking from the dynasty implication standpoint, a running back 15 year from Quinshon Judkins is going to do more for his value than like an RB7 or 8 year for a veteran running back, in my opinion.
It definitely will. It's more just like the long-term appeal of Judkins is in question to some degree because of the quarterback play and all that kind of stuff. I can't believe I'm arguing against Quinshon Judkins right now because
it's just more so the macro philosophy for me. It's like I view it as the rookies people view as more risky assets, but I actually think the counter is true. I think they're less risky because people are more forgiving in the lows and people are more willing to be aggressive in the highs.
That's true. I guess the other thing I would argue against Chase Brown and Breece Hall is that you got 4 to 5 targets per game with those guys versus Judkins. Probably not going to give you that type of production as a receiver. But let's break down the trade questions first. We're going to pivot into the flock questions. We did get a couple that came through since we went live. I believe, were they at the bottom potentially? Hold on. Let me just make sure they came up for us so that we can make sure that we get those covered. I saw J Metal submit one, which I don't see showing up at the moment. Maybe I got to refresh my page or something. I don't know why it's not working, but we'll get to those, rest assured, by the end. Maybe I'll just I don't know why it glitches out like this. But anyways, let's answer the trade questions first.
Smash. You're moving up for Travis Hunter or Ted McMillan. The only thing is, like in a start 10, I just can't take Ted over Omar and Hampton. But regardless, as you guys can see with the valuations, our consensus would have Kyler Murray ahead of Justin Herbert anyways, and you're getting a free pick upgrade. So you're taking the deal regardless. I'm just saying if it's for Ted specifically, because Hunter goes 102, I can't take Ted over Omar and Hampton. At that point, I would just move a running back in my roster for a wide receiver and take Omar.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. But yeah, I mean, I imagine the gap between Murray and Herbert is smaller for you than it is for me, but I have Herbert somewhat buried relative to Kyler just because of the redraft projection. I don't love it.
37 and 38 for me.
Yeah, so they're a lot closer for you. I have Murray quite a bit higher just because of what he can do with his legs, and I tend to believe that he'll bounce back this year versus Herbert is not the best redraft projection. But if you told me right now that these values were flipped a calendar year from now, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case.
Even if we pretended that Herbert was 23 and Murray was 44 in that, the pick upgrade itself is worth it.
Yeah, that's probably fair as well. A good way to look at it.
Because I would take Kyler Murray over the 106, and then you could make like let's say in the flipped universe, right? You would take the quarterback, whether it's Herbert over the 106, Murray over the 106, regardless, and then the 103 is about even value with either the quarterbacks, anyways.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. So interesting question there from Bleak Window, but yeah, definitely taking the okay. I don't know why this is. I'm gonna have to log out of my account really quick and then reset this because I don't know why it's doing it. Apparently, if you want to just answer some chat questions really quick.
I was just gonna say, apparently the Rams traded or tried to make a trade for Ted McMillan, by the way.
To trade up for him.
Yeah, that was the report from yesterday. Let me read it verbatim. Unless I'm mistaken, this is the moment when the Rams rejected the Panthers counter offer. So apparently the Rams offered, and then the report was the Panthers wanted to take Ted McMillan, but they came up with a counter offer that was like very, very high, like King's ransom type of offer. They said, okay, if they take this like wild offer, we'll trade down. Otherwise, we'll just stick and pick our guy. And I guess the Rams declined the counter offer, but the Rams were interested in trading up for 8.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, they were aggressive last year to try and get up for
Bowers.
Bowers, so it makes sense for sure.
Do we have to move Gibbs down rankings with Ragnow retirement? So okay, let's talk about this. Obviously, big blow, all pro level center, top 3 overall center in the league. Nick Arcolano actually just tweeted this out. He was the highest graded run blocking center per PFF in 2024. So there's no sugarcoating. Like, it is a big loss. The interior of the Detroit offensive line, overall, from going to being a top 2 to 3 offensive line in the league, you lose a center like that. I feel very confident saying they're more so in the 5 to 10 range.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is this. I was already kind of on the fence about having Montgomery as like a fringe top 24 running back in fantasy this year from like a redraft and best ball standpoint. I think I got to move like James Conner, Brian Robinson types, and even DeAndre Swift ahead of David Montgomery. I think it affects Montgomery more. Really.
I would agree, but let's talk about just best ball aspect. Obviously, we said Gibbs, Jefferson, Barkley, Bijan, Lamb, Chase, whatever order you have them, clear top 6 overall assets. Is this enough? Is this enough for you to move Gibbs into the start of the next tier, or are you keeping him in that tier?
No, I'm keeping him in that tier. I had him at 6 the whole time, too. If I had him over Jefferson or Lamb before this, then I would move him below those guys, but I already had him below those guys.
Yeah, and I think I would agree. I'd leave him still above because, again, as much as I like, Nico, Genti, Puka, like, we still have to acknowledge that Gibbs has been the clear-cut number 1 overall ceiling asset when Montgomery's been off the field and hasn't been particularly close. The reason why you value Gibbs at 6 overall is because he's probably an 8th overall, 9th overall, 12th overall level selection with the status quo. But in a winner-take-home Week 17 setting, if Montgomery were off the field, not only would he be the first overall pick, I don't think it would be particularly close.
Yeah, that's basically, I mean, if anybody had Bijan or Barkley below Gibbs before this, they should move Bijan or Barkley ahead of them. Yes. I already had Gibbs RB3 before this. So that's why he would stay at RB3 and 6 overall for me.
Yeah, that's the way I view it, especially in best ball specifically. Like in redraft, if you're in a half PPR redraft league, okay, that's one thing. Maybe you drop Gibbs a little bit, but in either a best ball league or in a full PPR redraft league, it's like you're getting equity to still what's going to be one of the best offenses in the league. Obviously, we know Jahmyr Gibbs, the spike he took up in year 2. What's to say that year 3 legendary season isn't in him? Like, why can't he average 25 points per game this year? Because the split now, instead of being a 55-45, 58-42, now Gibbs is getting 65 to 70% of the work.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So for some reason, AJ didn't include this in the question. He just said, "I'd love to hear Bush's opinion on my deal with Danny." What was the deal that you made? Because he didn't include the deal in here.
Oh, right. Okay, so this was in No Flockin, I believe. I mean, we could basically just talk about this right now. No Flockin League. This was the JJ McCarthy deal. So let me take a look. League trade.
So
you
gave him Chris Godwin, Jalen Hurts, and George Kittle for JJ McCarthy, Emeka Egbuka, his first for the next 3 years, 26, 27, and 28.
And BD Bacon second in 2026.
And BD Bacon second. So again, AJ, make sure next time you submit the trade question, just so everyone can actually see what it is. But
I think because a 2028 pick was in it, he couldn't submit it.
Maybe that's why. Yeah, I would say, but he could have just added that part in at the end of the chat box. I like the move. I know you're trying to, be competitive. I think it makes sense. Jalen Hurts to me is probably worth JJ McCarthy, the 2 1s and the 2 himself.
Yep.
And I would probably still take Hurts in that situation, to be honest. So
yeah,
getting Godwin and Kittle for Emeka Egbuka and a 28 first or something like that. I think it's relatively an even deal. I actually slightly prefer AJ's side.
Yeah.
Given the competitive assets, like Godwin, going to be one of my highest rostered wide receivers. Kittle is my tight end 2 in redraft this year. And Jalen Hurts in a Superflex Dynasty League is a top 4 asset for me. So I like AJ's side a little bit more because I'm a little bit lower on McCarthy than you, but it's not that much of a difference.
Yeah. Well, full transparency too. This is after I've already made my what's it called? My
tear down moves.
My direction. I already made that apparent. So this is after I traded away McCaffrey and Debo for Tano's 2027 1 and 2026 2. Again, cornering the market on the ones. That's probably going to be a mid-ish to late-ish pick at that point. His team's a little bit older, so we'll see what happens. I got a first and 2 2s for Adams and Mixon from DTB Brown. It was a 2028 one, but still confident with the future picks. And then this was right after I made that deal with BD Bacon, where I sent him Lamar, Darnold, and Hollywood in exchange for Bryce Young, Drake May, a first, 3 seconds and 4 thirds, I believe it was. And the rationale there is if we took the 1 and the 2s for plus Drake May for Lamar, I'm comfortable doing that because I'm higher on Drake May. And then Darnold and Brown for Bryce Young and the other picks, whatever essentially is a wash.
Yeah. I think it makes sense for both sides. I prefer the Jalen Hurts asset that he got in return. Let's get into the next trade question, then we can get to some of these reviews. Okay, so 26 early to mid first, 27 early to mid first, Tedero McMillan for Caleb Williams and Xavier Worthy. This is the McMillan side. I don't even think it's close for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot closer than that for me.
I mean, maybe that's harsh. It is close.
It's definitely close.
Yeah, it's definitely close. It would depend where. I mean, he has early to mid first, which is the earliest first you can select. And I would assume he's not making this trade unless he's getting like probably guaranteed early first here. So if they were 100% top 3 picks in both classes, then I'm probably taking that side. But if they are like you're projecting early to mid first, actually we can see the teams. Let's go look at the teams here.
I'm plugging this in with my own fucking thing on the calculator.
I mean, you also have Caleb Williams, like
that's why
dynasty quarterback -1. So
no, I get that. Also, that you didn't need to, but that's fine.
Okay, let me see where this guy's picks are.
Let me see. Okay, so
this is his picks right here.
This is like a really close deal for me.
This is his team.
Like this is exactly fair by my rankings on the site.
So this is his team.
So he has Lamar, Bryce, and Stafford.
I guess my guaranteeing early to mid here. That would change my answer a little bit. This is more like mid to me than early to mid.
I guess also my counter would be, can you not include Bryce Young instead of one of those firsts? Because you would have Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams, and then Stafford's a perfectly fine quarterback 3 in a contending window.
This is the team that is trading him, McMillan,
He's
right?
getting Caleb Williams. I'm saying, can you substitute Bryce Young instead of one of those early to mid ones? Because you would have a surplus at quarterback if you get Caleb Williams on top of this deal.
I see. Okay.
Like I would use, because Bryce Young, give or take one of those early to mid projected ones. If you can counter with Bryce Young instead of one of those picks, I would be more willing to do that because
So,
you'd already have a surplus.
My problem with this trade is that it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Why?
Well, think about it. If you're trading away McMillan and your 2 first-round picks for Caleb Williams and Xavier Worthy, what is your path to compete with this team if you don't have your ones?
Well, your path would be you'd have an extreme advantage at quarterback.
Okay, congrats to your extreme advantage at quarterback. You don't have picks to rebuild,
and you would have Worthy
possible,
and you'd get Worthy back to supplement wide receiver production.
I just don't think his team would be good enough to make that move.
I mean, that's another topic of discussion. Why you would do it? That would be why. Given the state of your team, though, like it would be a different question for me. Is if this team was in a league where the startup happened 4 years ago and you had a surplus of value that you can spend.
Yeah,
that would be different.
And
this looks like it's right out of
your valuation of Caleb. I still agree that would be more reasonable in that situation. I just with the state of your team,
in the state of this, I wouldn't make the deal.
Yeah,
but it is exactly fair.
Okay, you have Caleb Williams now, Lamar Jackson, and Bryce Young, and then you have not a good enough receiver core to compete, not a good enough running back core to compete, an aging running back and tight end 1. And like no picks to rebuild this team beyond that. Like it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to make the move.
Given the status of this team, it pigeonholes you. So I would agree. Given the context of this specific team, I would take the Tet and the 2 first side. However, if you were in a consolidation move, say you had that team, but you had better running back and wide receiver depth, and you had a better tight end than Andrews. Let's just say it was more of a juggernaut team. Maybe instead of Tootin and Charbonnet, you had I don't know, fucking Christian McCaffrey and Breece Hall.
Yeah. Right? I would say my strategy with this team personally would be to shed Andrews and Jacobs off of it and rebuild it around your wide receiver core and your picks, because this team is not quite ready to compete. You could kind of wait and see what you have at running back and tight end. We're not doing a full team review on a trade question, but anyways, that's probably what I would do. I would hold the side that you have and then maybe try and shed some of your older production.
I would agree. Sorry, we have to give the context of that. Like I said, if I'm in a situation where I can consolidate and go after a quarterback, I'll look at our don't give a flock league. I did basically a similar type of move for Caleb. I traded Tua plus 2 1s for Caleb and a 2, I believe it was. I did a relatively similar move, but I feel confident in my team in a best ball league to be able to accumulate points.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move into the reviews here. We got Colewhitty, JJBradley, Menkel.
Also, happy birthday, Arthur, by the way.
Shout out to Arthur. CourtesyFlush, that's hilarious. Stenberg, JFull, and then Afarah here. So we got 7 reviews, I believe.
Did do that trade with Arthur, by the way.
That is correct. All right. First down syndrome. There you go. Justin Herbert, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Jalen Milroe. Definitely like the status of that quarterback core. Running back core is in good shape too. Very young with Hampton.
327 ones.
All those guys. Yeah. Got 327 ones. Chase, London, Rice, and then nothing really else behind those guys. TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, Terrence Ferguson's a nice tight end core. So, I mean, realistically, outside of a wide receiver 4-5, you're probably in really good shape to compete even this year.
This to me is the definition of a house money team, because you go into this year, this team can put up points. And by this time in 2026, if you want to use those ones to consolidate, if you want to use those ones to potentially add some, at that point, they would be quote unquote depreciating assets. But guys that are probably going in like the 3rd round of startups this year might be worth one of those 2027 ones straight up.
Yeah. And he has the 1st round pick of
do you think you get AJ Brown
in 2027 as well? And this guy's got 2 aging running backs as his lead back. So by 2027, he could be a rebuilding team. And this guy's 12th, and he has his 1st round pick in 2027 as well.
This time next year, do you think he can get AJ Brown for one singular one of those 2027 ones? Because I think that would almost be exactly what he'll be worth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you'll also probably want to trade your own first at that point, not the ones that you have in that situation. But yeah, this is a wait and see approach. The one move that stands out to me as somebody who criminally hates this guy is Justin Herbert doesn't really fit this team, because he's not going to have the best, competitive redraft projection. And he is an older quarterback or not an older quarterback. He's a young enough quarterback, but he's still going to hold his value. But I would, if I had a team like this, that's all young players, I would want to transition Herbert into a guy with a lot more production window ceiling than what Herbert has. That would be what I would potentially want to do. Like, what does Herbert plus something get you near Caleb Williams or Drake May? That would be what I would try and do.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And given the market, I don't think it would cost too much. Like, it might only cost you like a Tootin or a Spears to be able to make that, or maybe like a 2.
Yeah, or maybe you can trade. Like, let me see who has Caleb Williams or some of these guys here. Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, Purdy and Prescott. I can't read. That's hilarious. This guy's Josh Allen, Runaway McBride. I mean, you could go up to Kyler potentially. You could go up to Nix or Stroud, but those guys are a little bit.
I would need more of an upgrade.
This guy is Caleb here. He might not be in
Chicago Bucks.
Yeah, he might be a Bears fan. If he isn't a Bears fan, maybe you could go Justin Herbert plus, Rasheed Rice, and he'll give you George Pickens and Caleb Williams. Like,
What's what I mean?
Maybe this guy. Yeah, this guy is Drake May.
Yeah, I mean, you could convince him, hey, listen, you got Lawrence, you got Bijan, you got Achane. You could convince him that, like, oh yeah, you're getting a more sturdy, older quarterback to compete, even though, quite frankly, we both have Drake May ranked above Justin Herbert in our rankings. But I'm telling you right now, in a casual league, you could very well convince, well, Drake May, the situation's still bad. He's Mike Vrabel, his head coach. Like, how is he going to produce? Justin Herbert, look at that. Wow, they drafted Trey Harris for him. Ooh.
Yeah, no, most casual players would assume that Justin Herbert is probably going to be the better asset this year for sure.
Yeah, and again, I would still be like, and I'll make sure you get a Tajay Spears as some upside on top.
Yeah. Throw in a Tajay Spears if you got to. I'd be willing to do Justin Herbert in a 2 for Drake May if you had to do it as well. Maybe he's like, oh, they're same tier. I get the quarterback who's a little bit more proven or something like that. I would definitely be inquiring about that just to give you a little bit more upside at the quarterback position, because as much as I like JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix, they're probably going to be more so long-term QB2s than they are QB1s in terms of a production standpoint, at least.
Top 15-ish guys rather than top 8 guys.
Yeah, so if you get Drake May on top of this and transition a little bit away from Justin Herbert, I would be willing to do it, even if I had to pay a little bit on top to do it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. But overall, I think you've built a very strong foundation for this team. 3 2027 ones in that iron bank. You're feeling very confident there. Like I said, you have the affordability come 2026. If you want to make a move, get a veteran producer at that point. That would be the timeline for this team. Like I said, I think one of those picks might be able to get you like an AJ Brown type on this team. In a start 9 PPR league, if you're rolling out, I mean, a start 9 would be what? 2 wide receivers, 1 flex?
2 wide receivers, 2 flexes, or 3 wide receivers, 1 flex.
Yeah. So quarterback, super flex, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end. Yeah. 2 flexes.
Yeah. So we just did a start 9 startup, which was a 2 and 2.
Yep. So regardless, though, the way you're looking at it, you're going to feel confident at least 1 through the flex if you get 1 more producing piece on this team. Sure. Is the depth ideal? In a perfect world, would you want a couple more people like you'd feel more confident than Pat Bryant entering the lineup? Yeah. But at the same time, who the fuck cares about that right now? Worry about that when you're actually ready to compete. Come 2026, if you have to throw a second to get a James Conner-like projection at that point, feel free to do that. Like I said, AJ Brown, feel free to do that. You could make some moves on this team to accelerate the window. And in fact, because you have so much youth built up, I feel comfortable doing that if your quarterbacks tell you they're ready to.
Yeah, this team is like Zay Flowers, Chris Olave away from being a really competitive team already. So you're kind of just needing wide receiver depth. And come mid-season, if for whatever reason your receivers are all balling out, Chase, London, Rice, they're all top 8 receivers in fantasy this year. Hawkinson's a dude. Hampton and Henderson have taken over their backfields. You go trade for Drake May, or maybe you have Justin Herbert still and McCarthy or Penix is giving you good production. At that point, I'd be willing to sell my 26, 1 and 2 to go get some competitive wide receiver or running back assets, but you don't really have to, because you could always go into the 2026 class, spend those picks, and you could be like the OKC Thunder a year from now where you have 3 1s in 2027 and you're in the final or whatever.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, let's move on to the next team here, which is from JJBradley. So we're going up to the top here. He said, I overpaid for Penix in the offseason, but just got an offer. T. Higgins for Penix. Yeah, I would definitely rather have T. Higgins personally.
One thing, shout out to the decision-making process for Arthur. If I submit a team, you root today, correct, sir? Now, brag team or tank team?
Yeah, you got to probably submit it's your birthday. I mean, if you want to feel good on your birthday, you could submit a brag team.
Yeah, we'll gloat you up a little bit for sure.
But anyways, Penix for T. Higgins. Are you taking T. Higgins? Or are you taking Penix there?
T. Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a big Penix guy, I think that's about the price that he probably.
He said he overpaid for Penix though.
Yeah, I'm looking in the side chat here what he ended up paying for him. He said we ended up having our draft. Okay, so he ended up telling me what he got with his rookie picks here. So he said I have picks 105 and 210
So he already had his
He ended
draft.
up getting Hunter at 105 and Scatabo at 210.
I love that.
He did say, though, that he did not trade Penix for T. He did not do the trade.
Okay. What did he pay for Penix?
I don't know. He didn't.
He said he
mention
overpaid.
that. He said he overpaid for Penix. So if you love Penix, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Penix is a bum. If you are a big Penix guy, that's totally cool with me.
Yeah, then if your name's don't touch my Penix and you have Penix, just trade Kyler Murray then.
Yeah, he said it is a super flex league, though.
Yeah.
So it says one quarterback. He mislabeled it there. It is a super flex league, which means it's also probably a start 8, but it is half PPR. So, I mean, having Jacobs, McCaffrey, Hubbard, and Mixon is going to be great for you from a production standpoint. Harrison, AJ Brown, Addison, those guys, you're going to be really in good shape.
Where did Hunter go?
Hunter went 105.
No, I know, but where did he go on the team? Because his picks don't show.
He hasn't. He had the rookie draft today. June 1st, he had the rookie draft, but he submitted this team 7 days ago.
Okay, because I was going to say because the picks weren't showing, so I was confused if the draft had already happened. Like
he had 105 and 210, and he picked Scatabo and Travis Hunter.
Okay, so we'll add that to the core here. Well built out team. Obviously, you need like a young building block tight end. My first thing I'm doing in a start 7 half PPR 10 team league, like Terry McLaurin, go sell him for a fucking tight end.
Yeah, you could sell him for a tight end. I wouldn't be opposed to even selling Mixon for a tight end, even though it's half PPR. You'd probably have a little decent amount of value there. You could maybe get up to, like, if you gave somebody Joe Mixon and Travis Kelce, maybe you could get up to you probably wouldn't quite get to like Laporta or something, but you could go for one of the rookies potentially.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. That's definitely the direction I would go. I mean, overall, when you're looking at the team, like you said, you overpaid for Penix. I'm very curious what you paid because in a 10-team start 7,
it'd be a start 8 if it is a super flex.
Oh, 10.
It's listed one quarterback start 7. It's probably a start 8.
Regardless, so in a 10-team start 8 super flex, like he doesn't have a lot of value at all.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. And you're going to be starting Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray for the most part every single week anyways. So I get wanting a quarterback 3 that's functional, but I think you maybe just panicked and you're like, oh, what if Kyler doesn't work out and you probably needed a quarterback 3 or something like that? I think I would have probably rather paid those assets for a difference-making running back or wide receiver production piece at that point.
My next course of action actually with this team, knowing that this league actually still has some value for a Penix type or a Murray type, because like I said, in a 10-team start 8, like realistically, the quarterback position does get devalued quite a bit comparatively. So my train of thought here is, can you take Penix plus AJ Brown or Kyler Murray plus AJ Brown, get an elite wide receiver plus a worse quarterback back? Like, who has CeeDee Lamb in this league? Like, I'm looking for difference makers.
I mean, he has good quarterbacks already. This guy doesn't have good quarterbacks. I mean, you could go for St. Brown here. This guy has pretty shitty quarterbacks.
Yeah, like, would you do Amon or St. Brown plus Darnold for Penix plus a worse wide receiver? Maybe you don't even have to give AJ Brown in that deal.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could give up McLaurin.
Addison, McLaurin. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. What about this guy's team? It doesn't really have any receivers.
What the hell is that?
Guy's team sucked.
What the hell is even that?
Yeah.
71-76.
Yeah, this guy has quarterbacks already. He's probably not going to be too interested. I mean, maybe this guy would be interested. He has Lamb and Neighbors. You could go after them, but he has Purdy and Jackson, so he's probably feeling decent about those guys.
Yeah.
Bryce Young and Caleb. This guy might be interested in selling BTJ potentially, or even Jay. Like, I'd even be willing to sell him Penix and try just getting JSN back.
Yeah. Like, can you get BTJ and Bryce Young for for Kyler Murray plus a worse receiver?
Yeah, Terry or Addison.
Yeah, try it. Yeah, you may as well.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, this team's in pretty good shape. You got to get a little bit of a long-term tight end plan here between Kelce and Freiermuth. You can get by this year, no problem. But long-term, I'd feel a little bit concerned about that. Harrison also, I wouldn't be opposed to pivoting into, if you can go from Harrison to London without really sacrificing anything. London has the much better redraft projection this year. So I'd be okay maybe even pivoting off of Harrison if you could for a better redraft projection and a similar tier wide receiver in Dynasty. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, if it costs you Harrison plus a really small piece to go from Harrison to Collins, London, or somebody like that, would you be interested in it?
I mean, like, it depends. Like, what are we looking at exactly?
So let's say Harrison and Joe Mixon is what it costs to go to, who has London? Hold on. Let me find who has London. This guy has London and Collins. So Harrison and Joe Mixon get you London and DJ Moore.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I would have DJ Moore above Mixon.
Okay. So Well, I mean, in half PPR, maybe prefer
Yeah.
Mixon if you're in that situation. I would say potentially going after a better receiver one wouldn't be the worst idea. And that guy is Collins and London, so he might be interested for sure.
Okay, give me big number 12.
All right. So that is probably the courses of action that we would take. Obviously, having Hunter really helps you out too, because we're forgetting that Hunter is on this team also, right? He has Harrison, Hunter, AJ Brown, and so on and so forth. So he is really set at wide receiver. That's why I'm saying potentially consolidating Harrison into a 100% receiver one makes sense.
Yeah, 100% consolidate, in my opinion. I think that would be the best course of action with this. Because like we mentioned, 10 teams start 8, like depth does not matter whatsoever.
No, definitely not. And getting London or Nico or Neighbors or Lamb or whoever you can go up and get using Harrison as the primary piece for that would definitely make some sense to me there. So otherwise, doing a pretty good job. I probably would have taken T. Higgins for Michael Penix, but you live and you learn there. I think it wasn't like a smash deal. I think if you're a big Penix guy, it was probably fine. But in a 10-team start 8 or whatever, I would have wanted Higgins.
League is transitioning to Superflex for 2026. Traded away star vets for these draft picks. Was just hoping to get some insight into who to take with my picks this year and any trade or roster building ideas. Thanks. So Pinhead Laramie.
So he's not in great shape. He's all the way down here.
However, it does look like
a lot of picks here, though.
Yeah, it doesn't look like because if we look at where the picks are valued right now, it doesn't look like they're in the system. That's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, he should be valued higher given where his draft picks are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you look at the right of where the picks are slated, you see 300, 303, 305. That's indicative of where they are at in the rankings versus in the 2026 one, you see that's at 48. So I think that might just be a developer glitch we might have to tell Joe about because they're all listed in the 300 section. And actually, now that I think about it, if you remember on the weekend, Mason asked us to re-put in our 101 to 112.
Well, mine are in, so it should
So are mine. So are mine.
Okay, yeah. So for some reason, there's just a glitch. Like I have the rookie 101 at 16, and it says it's at 300 right now. So I don't know why it's showing there, but
so we'll tell them.
Regardless, Pinhead Laramie, you are definitely not the 11th best team in your league. You have a pretty nice little shell of a good rebuilding type of situation here where you're going to be adding. His main question was, who do I select with my picks? He sold off his productive vets. 101, I mean, you're going to be going with Genty there. 104, you're going to be taking whoever falls to you, whether it's Hunter, Hampton, or Teteroa McMillan. That would definitely make some sense for me. It is a one quarterback league, so you're fine with Drake May and Bryce Young there. And 106, you're kind of praying that Henderson would fall to you, but without Cam Ward going ahead, you might be kind of looking at Emeka Egbuka or Quinshon Judkins. Would you be at all opposed to trying to get up from 106, 107, 108, one of these picks to go up and get into the 102, 103 range?
Absolutely.
Like if it costs you 106 and 109 or something?
Yes. I would also be willing. I'd be willing to even consolidate further. It's a start 9, 12-team league. You have as many picks as you already have. Can you get 1, 2, and 3 in this draft? Because if I can get 1, 2, and 3, I'm getting 1, 2, and 3 in a start 9 league.
Yeah, I think if you could
already set a quarterback.
Yeah, this guy has 103 and 105 too. Like if you could get to secure Henderson and Hunter or whoever ends up being there at 103 using the picks that you have there a little bit further down the board, like in a one quarterback league, as good as let's say 106 is Emeka Egbuka, Quinshon Judkins, 108 is, one of the tight ends probably, I would imagine. Like that's great, but I would rather walk away with like Hunter and Henderson potentially if I could.
Yeah, can you move like 106 and 108 for 103 and 106 and 108 for 102 and 107 and 109 for 103? Like, can you make moves like that?
Yeah, like I would trim off one of these picks completely.
I'd trim off even 2 if I have to, if it gets me 2 and 3 in this draft. Because if you can, okay, let's play a hypothetical too. If you can do it without even using the 104 as well, and you ended up with the first 4 picks in the draft, like I think it offsets even if you trim 2 of these off the roster because it's only a start 9 league.
Yeah, it is only a start 9, but the one thing I would say, I would only be willing to probably make 1 move up just because I do want bullets in the chamber. Like if
maybe you can get Hunter at 4.
Yeah, but like let's say you can get Hunter at 4, but you want to trade up for Hampton or McMillan at 3, or Hunter. You're going to take Hunter there and you're going to get McMillan at 4. I would probably still want to keep as many bullets in the chamber as I can, just because other than Genty, who you're going to add at 101, let's say Hunter or Hampton at 103 or 104, and then you get McMillan at 104 there. You're probably still needing 2, 3, 4 really good assets, and you don't want to sacrifice those Judkins and type Emeka Egbuka type picks or whatever, because I still would want those guys on my roster at this point, because I have a pretty barren roster outside of Worthy, Pickens, and my quarterbacks.
Yeah. No,
And I also still would want to secure a tight end as well. That's the other part that would factor in here is that at 108, 109, you probably still want to get Warren or Loveland there because you don't really have a tight end at the moment. So for me, what I would look to do is go to that guy with the 103, take the 106 plus your 112 as your initial offer and say, hey, would you take that for 103? And maybe he'll give you 103 for 106, 112. You can walk out of this draft with Genty, with Hunter, and McMillan.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because I think in a one quarterback, 12 team start 9 or whatever, most people are going to take Hampton 102. Most likely, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would assume so. Again, if you can somehow get all 3 of those guys, I would be willing to do it. But if you ended up getting 2 of them plus Ted as well, I'd be perfectly comfortable given the status of this team.
Yeah, I'd be doing it just because it is a team that needs a full-fledged rebuild, and having a lot of picks is important. But you do have 2 1s in 2026. And if we go back to the top here, he said it is transitioning into Superflex in 2026. So you do kind of want to get ahead of the curve in terms of planning for the Superflex transition. You do already have, where is this team? He does already have Drake May and Bryce Young and Sam Darnold. So you're like, that's not a terrible Superflex core, but knowing that it's not Superflex yet and you're rebuilding currently, it wouldn't be the worst idea to maybe even sell one of these rookie picks straight for a quarterback potentially.
Yeah, or maybe have a bullet in the chamber at like 109, 112 in case Cam Ward were to fall because it's not a super flex yet.
Yeah.
Maybe the rookie draft is ordered by 1 quarterback ADP and he's a little bit lower. You might be able to get Cam Ward at like the 112.
Yeah, like is it possible that in a league like this where it's not yet a super flex, that 109, 112, 108, you're on the board and you can trade one of those picks straight up for Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, somebody like that?
Yeah.
I think it's very possible that come your pick on the board, 109 is you're easily able to sell it for a quarterback, maybe even higher than that. Maybe you can get Bo Nix or CJ Stroud with the 109.
Yeah. No, you might be able
or
to.
Or Kyler potentially too.
You could definitely try.
Yeah, that would be my thought process of trying to get ahead on the super flex, because when you're in, we've never really talked about this because it's kind of a unique situation, but if you're rebuilding in a league, that is becoming a super flex at a future time, you want to get as great at the quarterback position as you can this instant while it's not a super flex.
Well, the opportunity cost is as low as it can. Like, yeah, I would agree. And that's why it's beautiful that you have so many picks this year, is because people might still value the immediacy of this year and make you an offer that a year from now they might regret. Because if we look at the quarterbacks around the league, again, Drake May is going to be your building block. But if you can add to Bryce Young with one of those future picks or one of those picks in this draft, like, can you get it done? Like, can you go after like some of these guys have fucking stacked duos?
Yeah, like that guy had Hurts and Allen. This guy is Burrow and Daniels. Maybe those guys know what they're doing, and that's why they have those stacked duos. Yeah. But this guy, I mean, with Stroud and Mayfield as his backups, you could probably get Stroud for a discount from this guy, I would imagine.
Yeah, or maybe like, what does Fighting Skins have?
Caleb Williams and Bo Nix. Like, is Bo Nix going to be that expensive on the market right now, or Caleb that expensive on the market?
Can you get Caleb Williams for Bryce Young plus some competitive assets?
I would be fine holding Bryce too, because as a rebuilding team, you also kind of want to have like the best quarterback core to potentially sell off quarterbacks once it becomes a super flex as well. So I would be okay going after Caleb or Bo Nix or, CJ Stroud, just using a rookie pick as well.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it would cost multiple, but yeah.
It might not right now though.
Maybe, but I'm assuming people know what they're doing. Like, you can try, but realistically, I'd even still be willing to pay upwards of 90% of the market value currently. Because if you look at it, 10% time this time next year, you're going to be saving regardless. So even if you have to overpay on the current market, say the current market has it at 75% and you have to pay 90 to 95% right now, that's more valuable, giving your window is profiting that 5% in a future year versus maybe losing the 15% now.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, you could also, like, if it costs you 108, 109 to go get Jalen Hurts or something, because, 2 1s in a one quarterback league is about equal value for Jalen Hurts, but in a super flex league, he's going to be worth double that.
Yeah.
So you're assuming right now, Danny, that they know what market value is. And
I'm assuming based off some of the
do not, because they're also not playing in super flex currently.
Based on some of the duos of quarterback I saw at the top, it looks like some people are wisening up.
Maybe
that's how you get a Daniels and Burrow duo. Because otherwise, why would you have that in a one quarterback league? Like, I think that guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's true. But that's 2 of the 12 people in the league as well.
Again, like, obviously in an ideal world, like, you can get them for steals. Hell, fuck, you can corner the entire market and just say, hey, I'll give a first for this guy, because they're all valued as a one quarterback league. Yeah, if you could do that and you can get rid of literally fucking all of those picks for quarterbacks that are all valued in the first round of startups, go do it. The issue is that I just don't think that's going to be attainable because people are going to wisen up to the fact that it is 2026, but you never know until you try. You may as well float some offers out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So build up the wide receiver core, build up the running back, spend a lot of those picks, maybe deal one for a quarterback if you can. If your market in your league is not going to respect the fact that it is turning into a super flex, just spend all those picks and you'll be in really good shape there. So let's move on to the next team, which is from CourtesyFlush. Guy be taking some stinky shits out here, clearly. Hey,
so I mean, he must have scouted me in Texas or scouted me in anytime we've shared a washroom.
Well, he's probably eating American food all the time, which I've often said. So speaking of, I had Chili's triple dippers for the first time, and wouldn't you know it, they were the worst shits I've ever had in my life because you guys in America just eat the craziest fucking food I've ever tasted.
Did you have it when you went to Buffalo?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
It was good. It was like, I'm never going to shit on how American food tastes.
Dude, it just causes a tsunami in your bowels.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how Americans eat American food all the time. Triple shitter, Arthur says.
Triple shitter. You know,
anyway,
I genuinely got scared that we would be late to the Cowboys-Bucks game on the Sunday Night Football because I had the shits at 2 p.m. and I was in there for like 30, 40 minutes battling demons.
Yeah, shout out to In-N-Out for causing said shits.
And barbecue.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move into Courtesy Flush here. Just finished my first Dynasty draft, 12-team Superflex, half tight end premium. He said, I know I kind of whiffed on the QB situation and possibly went too young. Danny knows that you can never go too young in a startup. Should I be looking to make any...
Thanks for the context, by the way.
In a startup. We're not trying to get canceled here. Should I be looking to make any specific moves that you can see or just ride out this season with what I've put together? So Courtesy Flush is the number 4 team here. He ends up going pretty young in terms of, the receiver position specifically. I like the building blocks that you're able to collect for sure.
Yeah, no, I really like how you structure this team. Pillar at tight end, pillar at running back, pillar at wide receiver, 2 guys that you feel confident in at quarterback. Like already that's a very, very good shell because at that point, you're just adding flex depth around those guys. Bauer's going to be in your lineup every week. Those 2 quarterbacks are going to be in your lineup every week. Obviously, you got your mainstays at your wide receiver 1, running back 1. At that point, it's just about building around them. And you haven't sacrificed any of your future value in picks. So by this time in 2027, like obviously you're going to be competing right away, but your team's going to take final form whether you move those chips in 2026 midseason or whether you actualize all those 8 picks that you have by 2027. Regardless, though, because you built young, because you built around your pillars, you have the affordability to kind of stay liquid on the market. Buy when people are, maybe injured right now. Maybe that 2026 one can get you a player that's usually worth 1.5 because he's missing 5 weeks to end the year. Like you have the option now to just add as much talent around this basis as you can.
Yeah, because this is your first Dynasty draft, I would assume most people are not really hip to how to play Dynasty. And you and I both know that the most profitable strategy when you are in a first-time startup with a lot of people is to 1-year punt and is to collect first-round picks. So what I would suggest doing, Courtesy Flush, in this situation is Chuba Hubbard, Chris Olave, Tyrone Tracy, Darnell Mooney, anybody that kind of peaks in market value throughout the year, knowing that you have a really young team. Because like if you look at his receiver core, you have Puka Nacua, Luther Burden, other than Michael Pittman and Chris Olave, really, everybody else at wide receiver for you is not really in their prime. So Pittman, Olave, Darnell Mooney, Chuba Hubbard, guys that are going to be productive this year, I would look to sell for future first-round picks, man, because it's probably going to be pretty easy in your league market to collect first-round picks.
Yeah.
You might get a 1 and a 2 for Chuba Hubbard on the open market because he's a 4th-round redraft pick.
Yeah, or maybe like you have to throw in like Darnell Mooney and you get an extra 3. This is a 1, 2, and 3 for those 3 players.
Again, I would assume, Danny, that his market is going to give him better shit than what we're suggesting.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, and if that's the case, make sure you capitalize it. Again, you have access to us on the site. Obviously, you built your team very strong. I'm assuming that it was probably influenced by the fact that obviously you have access to us. So for our first, basically what I'm trying to say is for our first Dynasty Startup League is what you mentioned, right? This is first Dynasty Startup. It's a very, very well structured team. And you didn't throw your future picks to be able to construct it.
Yeah. And you ended up taking a lot of swings on young wide receivers in this year's class. And if you hit 2-3 of these guys, then you're going to be in really good shape. You're going to have 3 or 4 really good pillars at wide receiver behind Puka Nacua. But like I said, I would 100% try and pivot off of some of the riskier assets on this roster, namely Chuba Hubbard, Chris Olave, Tyrone Tracy, Michael Pittman, and Darnell Mooney. Those would be the guys that I would be looking to pivot off of because The rest of your team is very young. A couple of those guys hit, your team's going to be really rising up the My Teams analyzer here. And if you have, let's say, 2 2s in 26, 3 1s in 2026, an extra first banked up in 2027 after making a bunch of moves, you're going to be in really good shape. And there's a very good chance that, Danny, you and I know that this is impossible in the leagues that we play in, but there's a very good chance that people, if it's their first Dynasty startup, are going to think 27 ones are worth nothing. So you might as well collect as many as you can.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So that's exactly what I would, how I would approach this team. Kev Spin says in the chat, new to this flock thing, how do I get advice from the guys? Basically what you do is the link that's in the description that says get your team reviewed. You follow that and then you take it to the checkout page basically, and you can purchase a review, a trade question, whatever you're looking for. And if you are an annual site subscriber using promo code FSE, you get a free team review voucher. So if you sign up annually, you get a free voucher, and then you get a year's access to the site, our rankings, our draft guides, and you get a team review from us there. So that's basically how that works. But of course, if you already are a site subscriber, maybe to a different creator, or maybe you've already site subscribed to us, you can just purchase a team review outright, which a lot of the people in this video ended up choosing that direction. But overall, Courtesy Flush, I think you're doing a great job so far. Good value to be 4th out of the startup when it's your first ever Dynasty League, and continue to build out some young ascending talent. I would imagine too, if you are using Danny's rankings right now, you probably have a better team than what is listed for me, because I don't have Kyle Williams and Trey Harris and Jack Besh probably ranked as high as you do.
Yeah, I mean, Luther Burden's also the big one here. Is you have him at 34, and I have him in my top 24. So
so his team would probably be even better if this was your rankings we were going off of.
Yeah, I mean, like if I had the league ID right now, I could literally pop it in and I could see. Obviously, I don't have it on me right now, but that's another thing too. Yeah.
If you go to the My Reviews page, you can just view it on your rankings.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Let me actually see. It doesn't actually organize by my own. I noticed that I actually brought that up to the devs before. That's
does it organize by mine?
It always does.
And I thought it would organize by yours.
And I brought that up to them, and they said that it's just not high on the list of priorities right now. Whereas I can just like see it on my teams feature, which it is what it is. But yeah, no, everything that I see is based on your rankings.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
If I go
submitting it to us for review, and my account is the FSD account or whatever.
Yeah, it still says 34, and you get, again, I don't know why they said I can pop it into the My Teams feature, because I can't, but yeah, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I know I'm higher on Burden. It doesn't make a difference if I see 34 beside him or 21. I know where I have him ranked.
Yeah, and we've had the discussion about Luther Burden a million times, so we're not going to rehash that. Now, Stenberg is the next team that we have here. Half PPR, half tight end premium, start 3 wide receivers year 2. And if you guys notice, it says free, and that's because he used his annual review voucher on this one. So if you guys are wondering, I don't want to pay, whatever it was, $60 or whatever for a team review, you can get a free one by signing up annually. He said, not sure if I try to boost my running back room or if I tier up at wide receiver. And he mentions this league is in year 2. Should I see where the season takes me? And he said, would love advice on how competitive I will be this year and what moves / players I should be targeting and selling. And then he said, love the content. Thanks. So really appreciate that. I guess first order of business is how competitive is he going to be this year?
Yeah, sorry. I just have to say one thing. I actually got sniped on Caleb Williams in the startup that I'm in right now. He went 109. I did not think he was
somebody equally as nuts as you for taking him in the first round.
Relax. I was going to take him at the 112, but yeah, he actually went before my pick.
Insane. We found Danny's body double.
Yeah. Now I'm just praying that somehow, please, if you're watching this, whoever's picking at the 111, let me take a look who is at the 111 right now. It is currently Fantasy Fitness. If you're watching this, please, for the love of God, let the Ladster himself get CeeDee Lamb at the 112. You would make my day.
Yeah, you loved Danny. You have at least 7 to 8 shares of CeeDee Lamb. You do not need another CeeDee Lamb share.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
I have no shares of CeeDee Lamb. I don't have him in a single league.
Well, that's your loss then. How do I? Okay, yeah, that's what I was trying to find. But yeah, I am at the 112-2-1 and feeling very good. If I can get one of these two plus a quarterback, or maybe leverage the 2-1 and trade down to the mid range, and given the quarterback range, get Drake May to fall there, I'd feel very good. Oh,
I figured out what happened now. Dave Kalugi, the Bears fan, took Caleb Williams over you.
Yeah, and Mahomes went too, which is big for me because I wouldn't have taken him. So I feel very good about taking the 112 right now. Because
there you go.
I mean, with that being said, I would have I think Caleb's a good pick at the 1-9. I just didn't expect not to be able to get him at the turn.
All right, let's
Sorry.
refocus because I'm going to try to be here for 3 hours.
Hey, you went on a little bit of a tangent too. So
I was talking about the team.
Okay.
First question Stenberg had for us was, how does his team stack up this year? When you look at his team this year, I mean, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Bryce Young is going to be good enough to win. Breece Hall, Bijan, or not Bijan, that would be insane. Brian Robinson, Tyrone Tracy, Jordan Mason. You don't have a lot of projectable points this year outside of Breece Hall and Brian Robinson. You got an RB1 and an RB2 plus some upside there. Tedero McMillan, AJ Brown, JSN, Devontae Smith are all top 4-round redraft picks for me. So those guys are going to be really solid. But behind them, you don't have a ton of options there. What I would say, generally speaking, is how I would compete this year is like, this is a house money team. You got to kind of wait and see, is Tet producing? Is JSN producing? Is anybody other than Brian Robinson and Breece Hall producing for you at running back? Tucker Kraft going to be a set it and forget it tight end for you, other than your quarterbacks and then a couple of your top end assets like AJ Brown and Breece Hall. I do think you can compete if things break right for you, but you're probably not like the best team in your league in terms of production. It says you're the number 1 team in your league in terms of value, but I would imagine there's 2 to 3 teams that are probably better production wise.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Regardless, though, I think you've structured the team, like you said, completely well, even if the production isn't there. I'm higher on Tucker Kraft than the consensus. I mean, you actually have him at 8, so you're right on board with me. It's very easy because we talked about this on the redraft ranking show, but if you just looked at the straight math of Tucker Kraft, he's only tight end 15 points per game last year. Obviously, the team didn't throw the ball the way we wanted to last year, but we're both higher on the potential passing volume for the Packers this year. We think Matthew Golden being added actually opens up a ton more for where Tucker Kraft wins around the line of scrimmage, middle of the field. Matthew Golden being a 3-level player really opens up a lot more for Kraft. And Kraft was so efficient on his targets, 50 catches, 710 yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, I believe was his line last year. If it works out, I can see this being like a Mark Andrews case where, year 3, he finally all connects and he has a 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown year because Jordan Love gets back to 2023 level.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely possible. I would say, I mean, his initial question too was like, what move should I be making? Players targeting, selling? Like, nobody on his team stands out to me as a sell. Like, I have everybody ranked about where they go in terms of market value here. Is there anybody on his team that looks like they're a sell to you in terms of open market value to me? I like everybody's ranked where I have them. Pretty much. And if anything, there's more buy lows on his team than anything else. Like, I think Dak is somewhat undervalued. Breece Hall is somewhat undervalued. Brian Robinson somewhat undervalued. Like, nobody really stands out to me as a guy that I would be like looking to move off of. I guess if you don't want to have both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, you could move off of one of those guys. But for the most part, I think you're in pretty good shape. And as far as like, I think the number one question he might have here is, hey, come week 5, if I'm 5-0 or 4-1 or something, are you selling my 26-1-2 for a competitive running back or something?
That's a tricky one. I don't think I will yet. I would need to see exactly what it looks like in season to have a better idea, because there is volatility, especially from a production standpoint, that I wouldn't want to make the decision to push in until I at least see what it shows me on the field.
Yeah. Let's say in a hypothetical universe in which Tet's producing, AJ's producing, JSN's producing, like you know you can compete. Like you're like, okay, I can compete. You're 26 projected late 1, you're 26 projected late 2. That's enough for you to go get Bucky Irving, who started out slow, or that's enough for you to go out and get Chase Brown, who's getting the volume but hasn't scored touchdowns or something for the first couple of games.
Yep, for sure.
That's probably what I would be looking to do. So this is definitely a wait and see team. He said it's in year 2. Continue to be patient with this thing. Don't rush it. Don't shove your chips in now because you want to look at a better RB2 in your starting lineup than Brian Robinson. That is definitely not what you should be doing. You should be being patient and kind of seeing what happens when you're ready to compete as your team is starting to develop there. So good team though, definitely in really good shape. And I wish there was a whole lot of moves that I could suggest for you, but I don't really see a whole lot. I think you have a lot of guys that are appropriately valued / even potentially buy lows.
Like, I would agree. Like, maybe you just look at like, oh, it's like a lot of yellow. You'd probably want like a couple more greens, but like aside from that, that is a very, very small nitpick, because Tet McMillan could very well be a green this time next year. JSN could very well be a green this time next year. Breece Hall could very well be a green this time next year. Like, there's Tucker Kraft, we just mentioned. What if he's the tight end 3 in Dynasty, because he does have a Mark Andrews like season, which he would be 25 years old attached to the Packers offense instead of the Jordan Love, who's one of the 5 highest, richest paid quarterbacks in the league right now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, so like there's a lot that could happen with this team where I can see it being even better going into 2026. And like I said, maybe at that point you mentioned, like, would you make an aggressive move going into 2026? If my team tells me this year that they are all in, they're ready to get the point equity, then at that point I'd be able to make that move.
Yeah, and I actually think, let's say things aren't going well for you. For example, week 5, week 6, you're like 2-4 or something like that. Maybe Christian Kirk's having a nice season for the Texans. You sell him off. Maybe Jordan Mason's got a good workload for the Vikings. You sell him off. I would definitely be trimming the fat at that point if that's the team situation you're in. But this is the definition of a soft contender kind of house money situation where you'd be looking to see what happens come week 5, week 6, and then making better informed decisions on that point of your season. So JFull, we got a league that both you and I are in. It is a league that I won last year and you won the year before that, which is the Tone Setter Truthers League. And JFull's basically got a few offers about Quinshon Judkins. He said been offered a future 26 first for one league mate. And he said then another was offering a lower tier running back plus another lower asset. Neither felt interesting. Where do you guys go from here with half the league as it is? Reroll, or with the league as it is, sorry, and re-roll, get more assets, just see how the rookies perform. So JFull, about 2 years ago, he had the worst roster in the league, and he tore this thing right down to the studs.
Oh, yeah. Well, like the picks are being double counted because technically, as you see, 101's in his lineup.
It looks like they adjusted themselves now because that's where I have 101 ranked and whatnot too.
Okay. So he didn't get Hunter a 104. I think he traded up.
Yeah, he traded up. So again, ignore the 2025 picks because they are actually in his roster already. But 26-1, 26-2, couple of 26-2
regardless,
banked up, couple of thirds banked up. Regardless, this
very
team
good
is in really
team.
good shape now.
Yeah, absolutely. This team is very stacked. Obviously, you have your pillars across the board. You have your quarterback 1, quarterback 2 potentially there with Penix. Hell, you have the affordability where if Loveland starts popping off in season, you can get a godfather for him or grandfather, like we will talk about from last stream. But like, what if, hypothetical world, what if Loveland does establish himself as a top 2 target on the Bears? The Bears are one of the best offense in the league, and he's literally the tight end 3 in Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, you have a very good trade chip at that point, although it's impossible to trade tight ends in leagues that I'm in because I never trade for tight ends. But
you are the worst when it comes. Like
I'm the worst. You better. Unless I'm getting a tight end for 80 cents on the dollar, I just don't even bother trading a tight end to me.
Well, that's the thing. So full story time. Corey was supposed to be getting Chris Godwin and George Kittle. He screwed the pooch a little too long, and that's when AJ swooped in. And
to be honest with you, once you see the trade that I'm about to do with Jared, you're going to be like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I think personally, I like the trade better. There's more upside for me to win the trade in the long term than the trade I was doing with you.
It's like Tyler Warren.
The trade I was doing with you was absolutely you're just selling for production.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in your situation, people might argue might be the more ideal circumstance, but I love how it worked out regardless because you're getting a deal that you're really happy with. And to be honest, if the alternative was the deal that I actually made, obviously Godwin and Kittle were involved in that Jalen Hurts deal, and I made with JJ McCarthy, the one that I made with AJ. Like, I prefer, given the status of my team, to combine all of those win now assets together and then completely tear it down. Like, for me, it's like, as much as I love Jalen Hurts, basically, even if I equated, like you said, Jalen Hurts equals JJ McCarthy plus 2 1s or JJ McCarthy plus 2 1s and a 2. The fact that I'm putting all those competitive assets together and getting all those rebuilding assets together meant a lot more for me than making a bunch of deals to accumulate that.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a league, like we said, where there's been a couple of teams that have been competitive for a while, including myself and you. And JFull was like kind of the first one to be like, I'm going to tear this down. And now he's coming out of his rebuild 2 calendar years later, and his team is in very really good shape now. I mean, you got a really young team. You mentioned some people are offering you a singular 26-1 for Judkins. I would probably need a little bit more than that. Lower tiered running back plus, you mentioned. Judkins fits your build. There's no real reason to move off of him.
JMetal, like, this is the definition of a house money team. The fact that you have the liquidity banked up that you do, you could very well convince me if this team does materialize. Sure. Would you be the number 1 favorite in this league? Probably not. Would you be a top 3 to 4 contender in this league? I definitely think that could be in the cards for this year, on top of already having liquidity. That's without baking in you making an aggressive new move to go buy point equity this year. So the fact that your team, you tanked it the way you did, you didn't really compete for the first couple of years. Like, this is what your team should look like. And good to you. You've stuck to the process. You've kept appreciating talent, appreciating picks. And that's you end up with a very, very strong built team. Because credit to JMetal, like this is a very well built team.
Yeah, and you're actually in the unique position because you have a bunch of 2s and 3s, especially. Yeah. And I can say this as somebody who just won, who, if next season is not going well, might be in the mood to sell off some competitive assets for 2s and 3s. You can add, like, let's say you're missing a wide receiver production piece or something. Like, you're not getting quite enough from your receiver core, but your running back core is cooking, tight ends cooking, quarterbacks cooking. You could come to somebody like me and be like, hey, you know, I noticed your Devontae Smith or what your Brandon Ayuk asset is producing, and I need some wide receiver production. You can package together a bunch of those 2s, maybe use your 1 if you need to, your 3s, whatever you need to do to go after some of those assets.
And saying go give him a 1.
Yeah. And I'm like, my team in this league, I'm going for one last ride. I won the championship last year. I'm probably going to have to rebuild after next season. I've been competitive all 4 years of this league, and I'm probably going to be moving into a rebuild most likely, or at least a retool after next year, because I'm going to have some aging running backs and stuff. But
I mean, it's similar vibe to mine. If you check mine right now, the difference is just because I have Lamar Jackson, a good number 2, because I have Lamar Jackson and Hurts, but you can very well make the case. Oh, I mean, I have the receivers too, but like, I'm probably going to need to retool the running back soon. Like if Kyron Williams isn't getting extended, maybe he doesn't have as clean of a look. If McCaffrey were to go down, obviously he would lose value. Like I might have to semi retool this team after the year in a bad circumstance.
Yeah, I'm really regretting that Jamar Chase deal that I did with you right now, because if I had Chase, I'd be like, I won the championship last year, but I would have won the championship with Chase still. Like I traded. So the deal that I made with you was I traded you Jamar Chase. You gave me Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, and Keon Coleman. And part of the rationale for that, as you guys probably
Wilson was like number 5, number 6 on the market last year. So it makes sense. It's just, if Wilson had the year, I mean, fuck, you took him over Jefferson. Obviously you loved his redraft.
Yeah. If he would have been a monster last year, I win that trade easily. But both Wilson and DJ Moore and probably Keon Coleman have all kind of lost value and are definitely not worth Jamar Chase at this point in time.
Yeah. Like my team, I would say, though, is definitely volatile. It does feel good that I have insulated still your picks. It's because worst case scenario, if like something bad happens in season and you need to go get those back from me, at least have that leverage point. That's why I pushed when I made the deal for Tyler Warren. I traded Bigsby, my own 2 and 3, is because I already know the direction I want to go. Whereas like if Barkley were to miss time or Taylor were to miss time, I at least now have some leverage points to get some production off you if I need to go in for, like, hypothetically, you know, like cheaper assets. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, JMetal's team, you don't really have to do anything. Don't take shitty offers for Quinshon Judkins. He fits your build. Wide receiver wise, you could maybe use another piece, but like honestly, your team's in really good shape. Wide receivers are also very difficult to trade for in this league because guys like Danny have all the good ones on one team. And then, you know, I've been looking for stud wide receivers for years, and I finally ended up kind of hitting on getting Devontae Smith before he had a great stretch of production towards the back half of the season, and finally ended up winning the championship. But JMetal, this is going to be probably your league in a couple of years.
Agreed.
Maybe even as soon as this year, potentially. So let's move into Afarah. And then I think we do have 1 or 2 more that came in since I last refreshed. Let me actually refresh quick before we get into this, just so I know how many we got left. But yeah, this, so we got 2 more. Arthur submitted 1, and then we got Afarah here. So managed to grab Travis at 108.
Oh my God. Wow.
And Caleb at 110 after down tiering the 102 into Waddle 108 and 110. So you got from the 102 where you could have taken Hunter very easily, where we would have taken Hunter, both of us. You got for Travis Hunter, you got Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle, and 110. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. He traded down from 102 and got the player we would have picked at 102.
Wait, so okay. So you got Travis Hunter, Caleb Johnson, and Jalen Waddle for Omarion Hampton. Pretty much is what I'm reading. I love Omarion Hampton, but fuck, I would take Hunter straight up.
Yeah. Well, we all know that. He said, I knew my league was down on Travis and could trade back, trying to figure out the best path to build a winning
we say
roster.
it every time. We say it every time. Sorry. It's risky. And if you're not completely certain that your league's going to do that, I would not gear on this side. But if you're like Alexander and you know for a fact that your league hates Travis Hunter, sometimes you can make moves like this. Like if you are full certain, hey, these 11 guys in my league, like I work with every day. They talk to me every day. They all think fucking Travis Hunter's a cornerback every day. and you can make a move like this. I mean, like, this is just a round of applause. Like, that was fantastic. You played them like a fiddle.
Absolutely, yeah. He said he won the league in 2023. Extra 26 and 27 picks should be early. He lists here as well. So the Winter Soldier this could be a brag team potentially. Maybe not total brag, but definitely in very, very good shape. He's got, like he mentioned, those picks should be early. The 26 one that he has extra, and then I think, does he have an extra? Yeah, he has an extra 27 one. Like, if we look at John Cedar Rapids, this guy's team this is his 27-1, and his team is aging. He's got McCaffrey, Henry, Hill, and Adams. Like, by next year, these guys might not be very good, and his 27-1 is a very, very high pick at that point. And then this guy, Wilson, I'm assuming that's the Castaways quote or whatever, the Tom Hanks movie. I can't remember what it's called. And he's got this guy's 26-1, a couple bad injuries. A.J. Brown and Bucky Irving go down. This guy is fucked. And he's got a high pick this year. So, yeah, you're definitely right to assume that those are probably high picks. But, yeah, dude, you got a beast.
This is fun.
Beast of a wide receiver core for sure. And
this
running
is
back
the lad
wise,
team.
I mean, you got young players. David Montgomery, probably a sell once you get a buyer for him. And then tight end wise, you definitely could use a hammer there. I probably, knowing that you took Caleb Johnson at 110, dude, I probably would have taken a tight end there, to be honest with you, at 110.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think
I would have rather had Warren or Loveland on a team like this anyways, too. Like, they're worth more than Caleb Johnson on the open market.
I would agree. I personally would, again, if you prefer Johnson, it's fine. I personally would take the tight ends because especially 2026, we just talked about, is a strong running back class. So,
and probably not a strong tight end class by the looks of it.
Who even is the favorite to be tight end one? Max Clare?
Yeah, or Eli Stowers probably.
Yeah, like
it's not going to be a great tight end class, most likely, unless we get some guys emerging, like, which they definitely could. I don't have Caleb Johnson over those guys in a vacuum, especially when you factor in you needed a tight end equally as much as you needed a running back. I 100% would have taken Loveland with this team.
Yeah. Also, J Metal, I will correct this after 102.
Yeah, we all know that. Danny, you need a Travis Hunter jersey, first of all, because I need one. You're not even just doing tricks on it at this point. You're like Tony Hawk, prime of his career, doing tricks on it.
Oh, bro, yeah, no. You remember Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 on the PS2?
Yeah, I was more of I was a proving ground on the 360, and before that, I was an American Wasteland guy.
Let me see. So. Yeah. Oh my God. Look, that OG fucking thumbnail on the disc, or I call it a thumbnail.
You call it a thumbnail.
Cover on the disc. Dude, I'm just looking at like the old maps because like the way it worked, obviously you would skate around, but there was like little Easter eggs that you'd have to find, and it would take you to like the next level every time. Dude, that old Tony Hawk game. That was legendary, man. Like, you'd have to do specific sequences to get onto the next map and unlock the next map.
Yeah. Yeah. Those Tony Hawk games were a lot of fun. I was big time. I was American Wasteland pilled. I was not a pro skater or was it pro skater? What was the other one that was like American Wasteland? There was like a random one-off game that came out after pro skaters.
Let me take a look. I know there was the 3. Let me see. So we got Pro Skater 2. That was the one that I played. Obviously 1 and 2. There was one right after them. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I can't find it. Can't see. I can't find it. If anybody knows, leave it in the comments. What was between Pro Skater 2 and American Wasteland?
There was definitely a rando Tony Hawk game. Also, speaking
Underground
of
2.
Underground 2. Yeah, I was a big Underground guy actually too.
Another random ass side tangent. Now it's Tony Hawk. Yeah, shout out Dylan. He wasn't even born when these games were out.
Yeah, facts. Also, shout out to Skate. Apparently, is coming out this year. Skate 4 has been in development for years, and apparently, I just looked it up because I'm like, I know the last skateboarding game that I've been looking forward to was Skate 4. I wonder if it's out already, and it's coming out this year apparently. But apparently, it's just called Skate. And Skate video games were like a little past you and I's like time.
Yeah,
they're probably Dylan's generation of skateboarding games.
He's a 2009.
Oh my goodness, Dylan.
My younger brother's like an early 2011, and he's like a child to me in my brain.
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, my older brother was 16 when he was born, and I was 11. So that makes sense.
Let's reposition this conversation because Alex also did say that he tried to trade up to 202 to get Colston Loveland because he slid to 202. I would have overpaid for that pick, dude.
Yeah.
I would have overpaid for that pick because You tried to trade, like you said you traded up for 203 and then the guy at 202 took him even though you had Bowers. I guess that's just bad luck, to be honest. But after the draft was over, he would have probably
been. What's stopping you right now?
Yeah, go offer him something for Loveland. That's what I would be.
Hey, maybe be like, hey, I took Caleb Johnson at 110, but I was between him and Loveland. What plus Loveland would you get me on Johnson? Like, make it seem like you took Johnson over Loveland because you preferred Johnson, but you would hear him out if you would add a plus. Even though I would take Loveland straight up, can you get Loveland plus a little piece? Like, even if it was like Loveland plus a 3, I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah,
I have Loveland straight up.
Would he give you his 27-2 for this? That's what I would float out there. Yeah. Would you go Caleb like Colson Loveland and a 27-2 for Caleb Johnson? That's what I would float out there for a trade.
And go up real quick. So Loveland plus a 2, and maybe you give him back like fucking.
I mean, you could give him Fannin back.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby too would make sense. Maybe fucking
EJ Giddens.
Like maybe he wants a young running back like Jordan Mason, as a handcuff running back like Jordan Mason, Isaac Garendo.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like
also
throw one of them
to you and I, Danny, for doing the rant not on Arthur's team because we were close. We were close to do it. We were one team away from Arthur's, and we almost did the Tony Hawk rant on Arthur's team because he is the classic rant team.
Yeah. I remember back when I was 16 is when I was playing with John Mechie, Chase Brown, and those guys.
Yeah, shut up.
Sorry, I had to make the joke.
Everyone, when the earth has been conquered and there's nothing remaining, Danny's just going to pop out of a grave and be like, dude, did you know that I played with John Mechie and Chase Brown?
Well, bro, I was in Mason's stream, like on the Latster YouTube account, just like typing in it the other day. And somebody in the stream in the comments was like, wait, is that the guy who played with Chase Brown?
Oh my God. Oh, dude, speaking of the Flock League, man, you guys have no idea what's coming. You guys have no idea what's coming. I'm so excited for it.
Oh, dude, it's going to be fucking epic. Did you see the fucking DMs in the fucking creator chat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It almost happened.
Yeah, they're insane.
Could you imagine?
Oh, I can imagine. And these guys have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, but I shit you not, you guys are going to crap your pants when you hear some of the stuff that we have planned.
Okay. So if he's trying to be this guy, then no.
No. To be honest with you, though, like, you got 2 1s. I would give him your first for Loveland.
Yeah, I mean,
I would do it personally. I think Loveland's worth the trade for sure.
I would try to add on to a piece and hold the ones if you can. If you have to, I would do it. But maybe you don't have to. Maybe you can get there in a creative way. I always love thinking of creative packages that might be worth around a 1 without having to concretely give a 1. Because if I'm not competing, I like the flexibility that the 1 would provide me.
Yeah, especially you got 7 good receivers and it's a start 8. Like, can you give him Ayuk for the pick instead, or for Loveland instead of giving him the pick? Or can you give him Waddle instead of, you know what I mean? Like, it's
whatever you can get away
with.
You
don't need Metcalf, Ayuk, and Waddle behind Jefferson, BTJ, and Hunter. Like, you could definitely afford to give him one of those receivers straight up for Colson Loveland. But also, just one last thing on the Flock League too. If you guys are in the Austin area or want to be in the Austin area at the middle portion of August, I believe the meetup will be like August 15th, 16th, 17th, something like that. A, you could meet us. B, you'll get a sneak peek at what happened in the Flock League draft before the vlog goes live as well, because we're going to be drafting the team the night before we go to the meetup. So definitely check that out if you guys are interested in meeting us in person and yapping about fantasy. It was as nerdy of an event as I've been to in my life last year, where it's just like 40, 50 people or maybe more, I don't even know, just yapping about fantasy football. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't so damn young. I'd pull up. True.
A few years time.
Bring a parent or guardian with you, Dylan.
A few years time, we'll do it in Quebec so he can have his first drink with the FSE lads.
For sure. But anyways, let's get to Arthur's team and then we can sign off of here. We said 2 hours, 2:30 is about on brand for us. Birthday brag time, he said. So it's a brag team. Loaded up on picks last year that all hit. Traded Kyler, Marvin, and Chase Brown for Josh Allen pre-draft. So Kyler, Marvin, and Chase Brown. I mean, you're looking at probably about 5.5 first rounders of value for Josh Allen. I think that's probably about a fair deal. Like, if I had Josh Allen and I was trying to, consolidate or deconsolidate, I guess, him into different assets, I think Kyler and the Marvin stack plus Chase Brown's probably about a fair trade. But good move for you because you're trying to consolidate, obviously. Look at his team relative to the rest of the league. Traded Worthy for 112 and 204. Flipped that 112 in my 26 first to the 106 where I took Hunter. Got Quinshon at 7 and Golden at 201. Is this a monster? Any advice? I mean, dead ringer to say that's a monster is that you're 10,000 ahead of any other team, which I would qualify you as a monster just based on that alone. But yeah, dude, look at this thing. Burrow and Allen as your quarterbacks with Neighbors, McConkey, Hunter, Bijan, Bowers. Yeah, like this is a monster, dude. You have a bunch of elite dynasty assets, elite redraft assets as well, considering where some of these guys are going. The only real weakness you have is that at running back, you're kind of not in the best shape in terms of where your production is coming from. Given that you're going to be one of the best teams in the league this year, I would be okay pivoting Judkins into a competitive running back plus. Like maybe somebody would give you Josh Jacobs plus another running back for Quinshon Judkins because your team is ready to win. Like I wouldn't fuck around too much with
what's the current
trying
offer?
To gain more value because you're already going to have the most value of any team in your league by 10,000 points.
What's the current offer?
He doesn't have any offers on the table right now. He's basically he's bragging about the team and wondering kind of what his next steps are.
Yeah. I mean, also shout out, by the way, Arthur in the chat. If you're a state over, you better come over for.
Yeah, I believe he's a New Mexico guy, and we can talk about Spanish food together, Arthur. And I say it every 2 days that I'm trying to learn Spanish. I still am not doing it good enough.
Would you guys do a trade for a vet productive quarterback if I can't get Loveland or try to do the Bush approach at tight end? I mean, I thought you were fine outside of tight end, no?
Vet productive core. Let me just go back to his team really quick. Dude, you're gonna be fine with Allen and Murray, to be honest. I'd be okay going after like a Daniel Jones as a third quarterback, but like you don't need anybody else.
Get a cheap quarterback 3 in season. You don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, I would say if you want to take the me approach at tight end, go after somebody that could really accumulate some value potentially, like a Terrence Ferguson or something.
Yeah, but shout out Arthur, man. Like I would also brag, given your situation, because holy crap, yeah, we are loaded across the board. You've already done the value accumulation stage, like Corey was alluding to. Go win the championship. Also, my camera just died, so that's actually
well. This is a good time to close out the stream because Arthur's got a brag team here, and then Dylan basically says. He's partially
he's fluent in Spanish.
I'm partially fluent, I think is what he's saying here.
Yeah,
I took Spanish 3 times in high school is what he's saying.
Yeah. I was gonna here, if you type something else in Spanish, I'll try to read it because it's similar to French/Italian. So I want to see how close I can. Don't put some like outrageous shit, but I want to see if I can.
He said, I'm a bit fluent in Spanish and I took high school French or high school Spanish 3 times is what I'm pretty sure he's saying here.
No, I'm saying type something else. I want to see if I can get it.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, Arthur, what else do you need us to say about your team? Like you're in elite shape here. The one thing I would maybe suggest as a potential move, if Matthew Golden has a lot of market value for you, trying to pivot him into a competitive running back just because Matthew Golden was like a late first, early second round rookie pick. That's about a good range to pivot into a competitive running back. Like if you could trade Golden straight up for Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry or maybe Josh Jacobs or somebody like that, Golden is the expendable option on your team, given that he's your 5th wide receiver and he's worth about the same as those guys.
Oh, wait, Arthur, we've never had this conversation. You like Ohio State?
Tough scene.
Oh man, that's
tough scene for Danny.
That puts a wrench in my heart.
Yeah, weird New Mexico, Ohio State fan. Come on there.
Yeah. Also, it is pretty funny, like how the eras of like, oh yeah, SEC dominance. Obviously, Georgia and Bama were that for the longest time, but literally the last 2 freaking champions have been Big Ten teams.
There you go. But anyways, we're gonna head out of here at the 2:30 mark. Appreciate you guys for submitting teams.
I'm going to Texas to play fantasy football.
I don't know what those first 2 words are.
Yo gustaría viajado. Does that not mean like going somewhere? Going to Texas, going to Texas. Para because or for to play fantasy football. Going to Texas to play fantasy football, right?
Yeah, I think it's I would like to go to Texas to play fantasy football. I would like to travel to Texas.
Hey, for someone that's never studied Spanish, that was pretty close.
Yeah. I figured I didn't know what viajado means, but that's travel, I'm assuming. But the yo gustera I figured I would like to.
Yeah.
But that was tough. Anyways,
It was a good idea for someone that's never taken Spanish, and I was only piecing that together off of the French and Italian that I know.
there we go. Anyways, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know what you guys want to see this week. We're going to be tackling some like players who are really valuable last year. Are they kind of bounce back candidates who've fallen in value this year? And then we're also going to be doing some best ball drafts on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I think we talked about, what was the thing that we mentioned, Danny?
Thursday. So we had 2 videos that we were playing this week. So obviously today we live streamed. Wednesday, we're going to live stream the draft. And the 2 videos we were talking about were the contentious veterans and the players that have changed dramatically in the past year in terms of startup ADP and what we could take away from it.
Right. Contentious veterans. I did the solo video of like guys that are kind of worth like 2nd and 3rd round rookie picks of like guys that are, hard to rank and, maybe are, different kind of options in terms of what their opinions are. But we're going to talk about more high end guys like contentious veterans worth like 1st round rookie picks. We'll talk about that on Thursday or Friday. We'll probably drop that video. So stay tuned for all that stuff. Again, if you have any other suggestions, leave them down below in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but check out our Instagram. We're going to be combining our 2 TikToks into the Instagram. So if you guys are not on TikTok, you'll definitely see all that content there. And also, if you just want to follow us over there, we definitely appreciate that. But yeah, with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.